Hey, folks, let me know if you can hear me. All right, I'm gonna give this a few moments to set up. Okay, I'm just writing a few little notes here. All right, am I on? Okay, it's on. Cool. All right, let me know if y'all can hear me. Let me make sure this sound is right. I always try to see how latent my chat is, and it seems like it's either this is the rush of. Okay, thank you, Dina, because y'all can't hear me. Good. All right, just give me a few minutes to let everybody get on in. We shall chop it up for a bit. Happy, what's today? Thursday. Happy Thursday. Remind me not to take my hair out before I do a live. Y'all should have saw me about an hour ago. This stuff was just dangling way over my face. It's like, man, I was trying to get the crap to do its shush-up thing. It wasn't trying to shush-up right. Oh well, it's okay. All right. Let me skip my little hellos in here. What up? GDAP 2012. Denai Marie. Shansi Muhammad. What up, Misfits 89? What up, Alan? We'll start the actual topics exactly at 9:10, so that gives us about 4 more minutes. All right. Maverick Cruz, thank you for letting me know you can hear me. Thank you, 5 Chocolate Dragon. Yes, now it's Thursday, I remember. 2008 B. Scott, Miss Nuru. Perfect timing. Thank you, Marilyn V. Yes, say yes, Joyous 88. You made it. All right, let me just finish. I got to write a few little notes here so I don't forget anything. I was over here trying to get this right, man. There was so much to cover. I didn't want to have too much and then miss some of it. Oh, yeah, that too. Okay. I think that's enough stuff. All right, how are we, everybody? I feel like we haven't done a live in a good minute, but you know, such is life. Things happen. Trying to be great here. Thank you. This is your first live in Anastasia 25. Well, welcome. All right. Yes, Travis Timmons says I'm loving Abbott Elementary. I like the show too. Is it Abbott? Is it Abbott or Abbott? Y'all know I be messing up names, right? But no, I like the show too. It's pretty good. Let's see. Check your Instagram message. Look, I'm sorry. I get, this is not to sound big headed, but I get a lot. I get a lot of messages. So if I don't get to you on Instagram, I will at some point. I'm sorry, I'll get to y'all, but I get so many. It's hard to get to everything. And then some of them get lost in the shuffle. And then some of them go into that request section, and then I'm like, oh, I guess that means I'm probably not following somebody. So yeah, if you're following me on Instagram and I'm not following you back, just send me a message and say, hey, follow me back, and I'll know. Because you know, Instagram, it's not like I don't go on Instagram every day, so sometimes people follow and I might not have been on Instagram for 3 or 4 days, and then I don't know. So just, you know, follow if you would like to. Just send me a message if you want me to follow you back. Just don't have nothing crazy on your page. All right. Somebody said that tiny black spot on your painting is driving me crazy. I thought it was a speck on my screen. Oh, this. Oh, you know what that is? So actually, it's in the painting. It's supposed to be a rock that's sitting there because I couldn't figure out what it was when I first looked at it. I'm getting ready to get rid of that anyway. I'm about to get something else to go there, I think. But no, I didn't know you could see it. I thought my head was blocking it. Yeah, my head was blocking it. All right. Okay. All right. We got 1 more minute before we start. By the way, like I said in the announcement, the book club, we're gonna start the first, I guess, shindig get together via Zoom. That's supposed to be on February 7th. After Sunday night, I'll kind of lock in and just look at all the votes that everybody had, and then that's how I'll make the selection for the book. And then most likely, you know, I'll just assign the first maybe 3 or 4 chapters for February 7th. I was trying to put the poll in, you know, like YouTube when you make the community section announcements, you can set up a poll, but it only gives you an option for one or the other. You can either do a poll and they vote, or you can post a picture. And I wanted to at least have a graphic of the book, so if people weren't sure, they hadn't heard of it, they could at least see the graphic of the book, go and Google it and see if they were interested in it or not. I know some people are like, why don't you just make 2 posts? But YouTube is kind of funky because the algorithm, sometimes you can do 2 posts back to back, and half of your subscribers will see one half, the other half will see the other. Some won't see anything. It's just a lot. And then because I didn't want it to get lost in my announcement that we were going live tonight, so I was like, all right, we'll just make the announcement and so be it. All right. Don Worthy said, I've been yelling at YouTube, so I thought I'd take a break and let you do it. I guess that's me yelling at YouTube. I got to be the one to catch all the smoke today. Yeah, we about to cut up tonight. So the book club info, Curly Canuck, it's not even, I haven't really announced anything yet, but on my community page. So when you go to the Calvin Michaels page, you just, hit the, there's a tab that says community. And then it has all my announcements. So when I do announce, when the book club starts with the link that I'll post, it'll be on that tab. All right. Okay. Sexy Alley Cat, welcome. All right, let's get this started. So I hate to be the one to start on all of the crappy news, but let's just get right into it. So let's talk voting rights, shall we? Now, like I said in the last video, I had already said I don't want to see any of the performative Martin Luther King was so great speeches and tweets and Instagram posts and Facebook messages and campaign messages and official statements and press releases and emails and mailing page. I didn't want to hear anything from anybody in Congress about MLK anything, because we already knew that there was not going to be a passage of any of these voting rights bills. It was no secret. Like, you saw it coming. And so it's bad that I wasn't even disappointed when I saw what happened, because it was like you kind of already knew what was there. But the problem is you have so many politicians that keep playing in our face, especially when it comes to all the symbolic gestures. And that's why I'm always talking about symbolism just being it's a joke. Like, please don't buy into symbolism. Symbolism is not policy. It doesn't matter how nice things may seem if they're presented. But if you're not doing the work, if the policy is not there, if there's nothing tangible, keep it. And so I'm looking at all these racist politicians who have went and gutted all kind of different things, and not even just voting rights, but when you look at the policy that so many of them choose to vote for or endorse or push or not vote for. And it's like you see that clearly y'all are not for the people at all, and let alone black folks. Y'all know y'all care less about us. And so when they start to do these performance, or performative actions to try to seem all of a sudden so moved. Like, you don't even mention Martin Luther King until January 17th anyway. That's the only day y'all mention him, unless there's some conversation about race and you're trying to not look like you're the offensive or offending party. Then you latch onto some Martin quote about content of the character and somehow associate it to being a terrible person and defending whatever shenanigans you have that you've done that people are blowing you up for. So I'm kind of just like, nah, it's chaos. And so when you look at what happened with that bill, because of course, it fails 49-51. Clearly, it's not even about it being a power grab. In my opinion, it's more so about maintaining the power structure that's there. And when you're talking about this voting rights bill, what brought it on, right? So we go back to 2013. And this is why I say symbolism can get folks caught up. 2013, remember, we have Barack Obama in office. A lot of people felt that all was well. Everything is good. The black people are happy. They got somebody who look like them in there, and he got a black wife. Cool. All is well. Democrats at the time, at that point, they had already lost the supermajority, but still, this was an era of symbolism. And symbolism used to work in politics, especially when you were running. I've always said that's been my biggest critique of Joe Biden, is he continues to run and push these symbolic gestures that just are not quite connecting. I'll get back to that later. But, so it's 2013. All of a sudden, you have that big giant lawsuit, right? And then the lawsuit pretty much challenges Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. And so 2013 happens. The Supreme Court votes to strike down that section of the Voting Rights Act, which pretty much now allows a lot of the shenanigans that we see. And when you look at the justifications as to why some of the court justices supported it, including Clarence Thomas, the main thing you hear is, well, those kind of laws, and because the laws at that time, when you go back to what initially started that voting rights bill of coming out of the 60s, was you had a handful of states that continue to have these very detrimental practices in regards to voting. You know, you got to count jelly beans and you got to take a literacy test. And by the way, if you have a free minute, one of these days, go on Google and look up one of the old literacy tests and try to take one of those things. I'm not. It's actually it's interesting because it's feasible and it's possible to answer the questions, but they're set up in such a way where you really would have to really have a grasp on how things, especially in regards to like linguistics and mathematics work and probability and all these other different things. But it's a pretty intense test. I always give it to all my kids, or at least my teenagers, before I go into my lecture about, what has happened in the past and why it still affects us today. But anyway, get into my point. One of the main things that they pushed out, my phone keeps vibrating, leave me alone. Oh, that might be one of y'all sending me a message. My bad. But the main thing they kept saying was, well, that policy was from 40 years ago. And so going back to that policy, that's what I was at. So going back, all the states had all these different, rules and things that were pretty much detrimental for people to vote. And so this specific law pretty much oversaw what those states were doing to make sure they weren't doing a bunch of foolery and intimidating voters and getting rid of polling locations and all these other things. And so that's why that section was added to the voting rights bill, and it's pretty much protected from things like excessive gerrymandering and all of these different things that we're seeing them now try to put back into play. And so that was the purpose of that bill. But then after they gutted that portion, the argument was, well, we're post-racial, everything's all good now. That was 40 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore. Martin had a dream, and I know he died, but when he died, the world just changed. Everybody just became compassionate and understood that we had to change as a country because we are all American. And again, that symbolic kind of crap. And so it was justified in their eyes. And they felt like, yeah, those days are long behind us. Nobody's ever going to make y'all count jelly beans. Nobody's going to make it harder for you to vote because we have free and fair elections, right? And so 2013 happens. And ever since then, we've seen what's happened in so many states, in so many jurisdictions. And a lot of that is as a result and in response to Barack Obama being in office. And I always find it so funny because, in my opinion, Barack Obama, there were things that he was able to do well, but there were a lot of things he could have done better. But in my opinion, white Americans benefited the most from him being in power. But America, specifically white America, saw that as too much access for Black folks. Absolutely not. We can never let this happen again. And so voting became so much more intense. And so, again, when you've seen what happened now, when we talk about the things that are happening, of course, gerrymandering is now, it's still a thing, but it's even more intense. You just saw, fortunately, it was struck down in court within the state of Ohio. But when you saw the districts that they tried to draw, and the plan that they tend to do with these districts, because they're doing it in Florida too now, if you've just seen the map that DeSantis is trying to put out, you pretty much go and you find the Black precincts and you break them up and add portions of them into the whiter one. So that way, when that white precinct votes with that section of Black voters, even if that Black section or Black demographic of voters votes 100% for one candidate, it doesn't matter because they're overruled and overpowered by the larger set of people in that district. So so they've been pretty much breaking apart the districts and drawing these weird maps where the map goes way over here and down here, trying to circle in certain groups of people to put in specific maps. So either you break up the Black districts and add them into larger districts that vote opposing, or you put them all in one big district so you can get them on out the way. So it's kind of like you see all that happening, right? Of course, we have the conversations around the voter ID law. Some people are like, well, just get an ID and vote. And I think people forget you have senior citizens who, a lot of them, turn in their driver's license after a certain age. They just are not in the capacity to drive anymore. And there's a lot of people who also just don't have a specific need for any kind of major ID that's accepted by law. Because again, even the IDs have now changed. There's, what do they call it? Legitimate IDs now. It has to have that star, those same ones you need to fly on a plane. So a lot of you guys, depending on what state you lived in, had to go and get a new ID outside of the state ID that was already issued. And so it just makes things more challenging because you also have to look at, you have a lot of working class Americans who do not get the luxury to go and do certain things because their jobs do not give them enough off time or personal time off to go and take care of these things. Because when you go and do something like get a new ID, when are these offices usually open? Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They're not open on the weekends. If people don't have vehicles or don't have whatever it is to get to that specific location, let alone get the allotted time off to go and do what it is they need to do, like this is all targeted. It's no secret. It's targeted towards specific groups of people, all right? You see they're starting to get rid of the drop box locations in regards to people being able to drop off their ballots. They've been just getting rid of all of those things. We saw what DeJoy and them were doing with the last election as far as corrupting and compromising the post office and the postal system and locking mailboxes and doing all these different things. And it's the same thing with the drop boxes where people can do absentee and just drop it off in the little box and keep it moving. No, we got to get rid of those. Absolutely not. All right. You've seen them strip away access to early voting in many states, things like souls to the polls and all that. Now there's conversations around limiting even the hours on Sundays. It's no secret that within a lot of Black churches, souls to the polls is that day after church where the church, they will charter some buses. And the church folks go in there with them nice big old church hats and sing their songs, and they get out there to go and vote. And you're seeing even that kind of get stripped away, where we're going to cut down how often people can vote outside of the regular polling hour. So let's cut the early voting. All right. It's more easy to reject ballots when people apply for them. You just saw what's happening in that county in Texas, where over half of the ballots that were, or not the voter registrations, I'm sorry, you saw half of the voter registrations in that specific precinct get thrown out for all kind of various reasons and everything like that. You see like the dismantling of election committees. And we saw that throughout 2020, where they were trying to overrule, a lot of the results that people did not like. And so, all right, we're going to try to make sure we get rid of these committees. And so you saw what happened in the state of Georgia, where some of the elections committees were kind of just gutted. You get rid of the people who were overseeing things, push them out, vote in new laws by the panels that, have authority to vote on certain things, and you get rid of more stuff. So now there's less oversight in regards to a lot of local and state elections. All right. It's also easier right now to decertify a lot of elections, because that was one of the other things that was attempted even in 2020, where you literally are in a space where a handful of people can overrule an election or decertify an election. Again, less polling options. So places that are high density, where you have a huge collective of Black voters, working class voters, I guess you can say brown voters and everything else like that, less polling places to vote. So again, we can talk about what Harris County, Texas, what did they have? I think it was two or three polling places for over 2 million people. And so your only option is you got to stand in line, because it ain't going to be no absentee and mail-in and anything like that, because they put a million additional rules into how that works as well, right? In addition to that, then you've even seen the purges. We saw that with Gwinnett County when Brian Kemp ran for governor. 200,000 people purged from the voter rolls, and pretty much all of them were Black, right? You've seen just so many things take place, or even the idea of no time to count it, so it's not going to be counted, where they try to put in that locked in time frame. And if the votes aren't counted by that time frame, too bad, throw them out. That's pretty much what you saw in regards to some of the laws they tried to set up in Pennsylvania before the 2020 election, where the rule was going to be when we have election day, everything that is counted on election day, if it's not counted by then, too bad, throw it out. And the problem with that was you had all the early voting and absentee voting. And the rule that they had set up at that time was the absentee votes cannot be counted until election day. So you had hundreds of thousands of votes just literally sitting, waiting to be counted on election day. Election day comes, and then all of a sudden they try to harp on the law of saying, well, we ran out of time. Whatever is not counted, we just got to throw it out. And it's no secret that when you talk about the demographics of who was doing absentee voting in 2020, it tended to be Black voters. It tended to be a lot of Democrat voters, tended to be a lot of college students. And so you kind of see the games that are being played. And so it's more than just a power grab. It's an idea to maintain what's already there, because I've said this a million times, like Republicans have this ish on lock. Just because you see Joe in office, they're struggling, right? Republicans got this on lock. It's not even just House and the Senate, but when you start getting on those local levels, and you're talking about these school boards and these county supervisors and a lot of these federally appointed judges that have been put into place from the last administration, and a lot of these top tier positions, and a lot of these locally elected positions that have these long tenures, and you have so many pieces to this giant puzzle where Republicans just have a lock on everything. So they would like to maintain that, and they're going to do that by any means necessary. And so it's interesting, because then we get to cinema and mansion, right? And so what's so interesting, again, I feel like for Joe Biden, his flaw is, like I keep saying, he runs on these symbolic promises, and he operates like it's still 1996 as a politician. And I say 1996 because, in my opinion, that might have been the last year where politics was not so tribal. You still were going to have the differences between parties, but the idea of for the good of the country was still kind of a thing. People were still crooked. People were still going to endorse a lot of nonsense and foolery, but there was still that idea of being able to, I guess, reach across the aisle, like they like to always say. I'm over that crap. But that's the era of politicians disagreeing on everything and then getting together for lunch. and then going back and cussing each other out some more on the floor. And then they might come to a compromise. But he still runs the country as if that's where we are right now. And so it was like you watched him and all of the leaders. Well, we got to go into meet. They had how many meetings did they have with Cinema and Manchin? And they kept telling you, we're not voting for that. We're not changing the filibuster. I mean, we support voting rights, but we're not doing it if we have to change the filibuster, so on and so forth. We're not budging. And again, I always say follow the money. Go see where people are bought out, because it's always interesting to see that, you know, the salary for a senator is 174,000, but all of these people are millionaires. And Cinema just got in office. So I'm like, how are you already rich? Who done brought you out? Somebody go follow the money and tell me what it is. Who's paying her? But with those two, what was so interesting, for all of the meetings and the marches, you know, I got invited to go to there was a march here in DC with Dr. King's son across the new bridge. I was like, don't even worry about me going, because I'm not doing these symbolic gestures because they're not getting us to anywhere. You can raise as much awareness as you want, but so many of these politicians are bought out and crooked. It doesn't matter how much you present. You can literally have babies dying on camera in front of them, and they'll be like, they'll look the other way, but I just can't. And so their idea was, we have to hold on to policy and Senate rule. And so for all of these speeches, and I think Joe Biden had them at the White House for a million different meetings, and all of the media attacks and everything, and all of the conversations around how this will disenfranchise a lot of voters, but specifically Black voters, and so on and so forth, they didn't budge because they were so committed to the Senate rules. I was like, and then when you go and look at some of their voting, we just watched them do the other thing in regards to the debt ceiling, where they're like, okay, well, we can pause the filibuster for that. Yeah, all right. So for majority, let's go. I'm like, all right. So it's so funny. And the fact that, you know, we've seen Congress, I think Amy, whatever her name is, she just did that speech where she said, yeah, there's been over 160 times where y'all kind of bypassed the filibuster to get, you know, essential policy pushed out there if it was something that was what you would call almost detrimental if it wasn't, you know, addressed. And so, you know, some of those main pieces, again, we talk about the Supreme Court justices that they were able to shove in there. All right. We talk about amendments that were made to the Affordable Care Act. I'm gonna get to that in a second too. And then even that tax cut in 2017, you know, simple majority. And that one's still funny to me because it was presented, clearly it was a tax cut for the rich, and for the middle and working class, your taxes and our taxes are still going up until 2027. But they told us, don't worry, you know, this is a $1,500 piece that y'all get. And then remember the guy did the press conference, I want to say it was Sean Spicer. And he's like, yeah, you guys will be able to renovate your kitchen. I was like, with $1,500, that might be a stove and half a refrigerator. I mean, I might want some granite counters. Like, what $1,500? And mind you, the rich folks got super rich. But so again, it was just funny that they wanted to really latch onto the idea of holding on to this specific rule. And again, these people are so bought out. And with Manchin, it's so interesting because when you look at the state in which he runs, or which he's a senator for, again, and it's like West Virginia. No disrespect to anybody that's there, but everything over there is falling apart. Education, infrastructure, healthcare, anything you can think of, it's all bottom tier over there. And so what gets me is, even when you go outside of voting rights, and you talk about, like, I guess, Build Back Better or a lot of the other policy, he still wouldn't budge, even when it comes to, you know, be in a space that's detrimental to his actual constituents. He's like, I'm just not budging on it. And so remember how we talked about the idea of like this false belief that you just have to reach across the aisle and we can get it done. There's so many lessons to be learned from that. And it seems like these politicians just keep playing the same game. So remember Manchin back in 2021, he kept saying, I'm not voting for this. I'm not voting for that. We have to work together. If no Republicans are on it, I'm not voting for it. And so remember, he went and he did all of that change. I forgot what bill it was, but he did all these different things to make all these different amendments. I want to say it was something in relation to Build Back Better, some kind of bill, either that or something with voting rights. Did all of that, did all this campaigning, and then not a single Republican voted for it. And we were back to square one after you wasted 5 or 6 months, right? Same thing going back to the Affordable Care Act. The biggest L I think Barack Obama took in that first term, and that was when he had a super majority. You didn't even need the other side to get your policy pushed through. And so he had this version of the Affordable Care Act, right? All of the dream, everything that he wanted to put in there. Thank you, Esmond. And so he decided we could just go ahead and pass it, but I want to make sure I reach across the aisle because I want to be a president for all Americans, which at that time I understood. You know, you got this black man who runs in office and half of America thinks he's about to, all of a sudden the whole country's going to be Black Panthers and white people going to be in slavery. White people really believe this. And so he wanted to make sure that he was safe. He wanted to paint the picture of I'm everybody's president. almost the same language you heard Joe Biden run on, right? And so he creates this bipartisan committee to meet about the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare, to kind of meet in the middle and everything. And so, mind you, this committee is giving him hell, all right? There are 200 different amendments made to the Affordable Care Act before it goes to the floor for a vote, right? 200 amendments. And so they, take this out, take that out. Okay, well, Barack is like, well, I wanted to protect the premium so the premiums don't go up. Nope, 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 we don't want that. That's not going to work. All right, I guess we'll take that out. Okay, I wanted to protect this because, nope, nope, we don't want that. Okay, I'm going to take that out. I wanted it, nope, nope. Just put the pen down, Barack. Okay, now give us the pen. We just don't, we're going to scratch. Nope, 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 nope. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. I think this is the bill we'll vote on. It's bipartisan. We're all in this together because we're all Americans. They take that crap to the Senate floor and no Republicans vote for it. And so it ends up getting passed, but now it's a shell of what it could have been. All because you wanted to play this game with people who are not in the same, they're not even on the same board, like the game board. Like they're on like, I don't know, some dang Monopoly board game setup. We over here playing sorry. And so, it's like you literally had an opportunity to have some really, really, really great policy in regards to that. And we never got that because he let that bipartisan committee just strip it all down to the point where there's so many flaws in it. And so it's still beneficial to a lot of Americans, but Republicans have harped on that. Like, we're going to get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this. It's just dumb. And that's why they keep trying to repeal it. But then what makes it so funny, they've never had an official healthcare plan to replace it either. And so that's why I'm always like, understand that at this point, everybody's not on the same token of whatever it is that they're trying to do. One party is, again, they're maintaining and latching on to power because 2008 is never going to happen again, according to them. There will never be, one, a black candidate, two, a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and at that time, a Supreme Court that was still pretty fair and balanced. That will never happen again. And so you've watched the policy and everything go into play since that man has been pretty much put into office. And so it gets even deeper because remember when we talked about, I always say be wary of black faces in high spaces because a lot of times they're bought out and a lot of times they've had to compromise and even sell out their own collective to get higher. So when we go back to that the Voting Rights Act, right? Clarence Thomas, like we said, also voted to strip it down. Clarence Thomas's story to me is so interesting because, again, in my opinion, he was put into the place he was put in because he needed to be the token Negro for the party that was in power at the time. So remember, Thurgood Marshall, 1991, he retires. I'm out. I'm ready to go. I did my part. I got to go. And so they wanted him to kind of ride it out, like, please ride it out until, the next president gets in there. But at that point in time, there wasn't a guarantee that a Democrat was going to win the 1992 election because Republicans have been in power since 1981. Reagan wins in 1980 and Republicans called the shots for all of the 80s. They ran the show, right? And so Thurgood Marshall's like, listen, the way that things are going, I don't think y'all about to win in 92 either. I'm out. I got to go. And so Bush is like, oh, good for me. Bush one's like, I get to appoint somebody. And so don't worry, blacks. I'm going to have somebody for you. His name is Clarence Thomas. He's a good one. He's one of the, you guys are going to love him. You're going to love him. He's going to be so great. And so Clarence Thomas gets this nomination. Now, remember, at the same time, then there's the big hoopla about all of the sexual misconduct and everything else like that that takes place. Why am I forgetting the lady's name all of a sudden? Somebody in the chat, give me the woman's name that made the accusations about it. The pubic hairs on the soda can. What is her name? I'm so mad I can't remember right now. Carrie Thomas just played her, or Carrie, what's her name? Carrie Washington played her name. Thank you, Anita Hill. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. That's why I rock with y'all. Y'all be helping me out. So Anita Hill makes all the accusations about everything that he did and all the misconduct and so on and so forth, right? And so what ends up happening? Remember all those conversations of symbolism and representation? Because again, representation is not representation if the faces that are doing the representation are just holding up the status quo. So they harp on Black emotion, the emotional response that a lot of Black Americans have to just all of the nonsense that happens. And again, it's rightfully placed because when you dealt with so much trauma and setbacks and nonsense, you have a right to be emotional about how you feel. And so here comes the narrative of, oh my God, they're trying to take another Black man down. They are trying to stop that's what the system is trying to do. And so nobody would hear Anita he'll out on anything. And so they went and they latched onto trying to take the black man down. People didn't do the research into the kind of political beliefs and policy this man would have had. Because one, if he's already nominated by somebody of an opposing party that tends to vote for everything that's detrimental to your collective, you might want to do research. But people latched onto it. And so, yeah, they trying to take the man down. And yeah, it's true. They be trying to take us down. But sometimes everybody is not for the collective. And he was not. So he gets placed in there. And he plays the role, and he's done it since 1993. Every single time there is any kind of piece of legislation, especially in regards to what happens to the black collective, in regards to what happens to working class Americans, what happens to the brown collective, what happens to people that tend to not be conservative white men. He tends to vote against them on almost everything. What's so funny, even the last Supreme Court decision from yesterday, where this is in regards to everything surrounding January 6th. And it was about the information being released from the White House so that the January 6th committee can keep doing what they do. A vote of 8-1 in favor of releasing the information to those doing the investigation. Who is the one person that said, "Oh no, we don't want to release that"? Clarence freaking Thomas. And that's probably because his wife helped to fund the buses for the people that came on January 6th. And so again, this is why symbolism can be a very dangerous thing when you don't pay attention to the tangible ideas in regards to, the policy. When you just harp on symbolism, that's the nonsense. And that's why even like RBG, like, okay, when people were gassing her up because, she died, and it was like, oh my gosh, she was such a hero. I'm like, I don't even gas her up like that. Because why? I think back to the 2000 presidential election, right? So we get to Florida, the whole conversation around the recount, right? And so it's being contested and they're doing the recount and it's getting down to the wire. There's a deadline of December 12th where everything is supposed to be done. That's the Florida law that's put out there. While the Supreme Court is doing their deliberations and so on and so forth, December 12th comes. RBG's like, look, sorry, Florida said they want their stuff done by the 12th. So I know that this recount is starting to really shift, and there's a possibility that maybe the counts were wrong. We're not even going to talk about those butterfly ballots. That's another conversation, because there's a belief that a lot of people voted for Pat Buchanan thinking they were voting for Al Gore just based on how the ballot was set up. You can kind of just go back and look at that. And then again, the conversation around Chad, if you remember that era. Chad, as far as the ballots and those little holes that got punched out and the machines weren't reading them properly because some of the holes weren't being pushed out through the machine. 2000 was off the chain. But anyway, she, when it came to the vote, she was one of the main ones that said, all right, stop the vote. That's it. We got to stop this. This is where we're at. We got to, Florida, this is what they want to do. Let's leave the power to the states. And we get George Bush. And you see where we're at now. So again, that's why it's like with symbolism, it's kind of like, I don't buy into it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's a danger in symbolism. And so when we get back to what's happening now, the main narrative in regards to all of the things that people are doing in regards to gutting voting rights, the main narrative is, oh, voter fraud. We have to stop the voter fraud. We got to stop the voter fraud. And the funniest thing, before the 2016 election, there were 4 cases that were tried of voter fraud. 4. Like 4. Just 4, right? And so now we look at everything that's happened with the last election. And by the way, this is not a video to endorse any side. I'm just painting the picture so you see it as I see it. That's all right? So you have all of the attempts to pretty much gut the election. We saw that. We saw all of the lawsuits. We saw, the attempts to show up at the counting rooms with folks showing up with guns and everything, and then poll watchers and this, that, and the third. And then the narrative of the big lie starts getting pushed out, and so on and so forth. And there's all these different things that take place. And what's even funnier, now you have Rudy Giuliani, whose name has pretty much been mentioned, saying, hey, have you guys been paying attention to this whole fake elector thing? And what's interesting is some of this is on video, especially out of Michigan, where you see when it got time to the portion where they needed to certify the election, the final electors go in, sign, here's the paper, it is official. You have groups of people showing up to the venues pretending to be the elected electors so they can go and certify or decertify the election and certify and say, hey, it's actually Trump who's going to be president, right? And so on video, you have the people who show up to Michigan to do that. But the problem is the real electors are already there. They're already certifying the thing. And so on that video, you see all the fake electors standing out there like, no, we're the official electors. It's really us. And then what makes it even more interesting, they have like official forms that they've created that mirror what the real forms would look like. And so clearly there's people on the inside working on this, because a lot of those kind of things are not really available to us regular everyday folks. That's some like top secret, things that are put there. But no, they had exact duplicates of the forms that were needed, and then they just changed the names to their names. And so now that's kind of blowing up in the media. And so it happened in 7 states, or at least there was a plan. Michigan, officially, yes, the people made it to the door. It was attempted in Arizona. There were plans for it in Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, New Mexico, and Pennsylvania. And it's funny that it's in all the states that were technically states that were supposed to already be the swing states, right? And so we saw what happened. And then when you talk about why those states went blue, what happened? You started counting those absentee ballots, especially from those districts where there's a lot of black voters. Black voters said, "We just this ain't nah. We already ain't. It's already a crappy show, but we're not feeling this right now. So yeah, we want to at least put Joe in it and see how that goes, right?" And so all of a sudden, voter fraud becomes a thing when all the black voters vote, and its election doesn't go the way of what Republicans thought they were going to get, right? And so again, it's interesting that all of a sudden voter fraud becomes a thing, and the people that are being targeted as the offenders in regards to voter fraud tend to be all the black voters. When in reality, when if you want to talk at least along party lines, it tends to be Republicans. You keep seeing what the villages in Florida where all those residents keep getting arrested for trying to do different things, whether it's voting more than once. You've seen politicians attempt to vote in multiple states. You've seen people try to again overtake the election. You saw January 6th. Hello. And it's to the point where you had people trying to decertify the election. There were death threats to the people that were, the officials, just off the chain, right? And so it's interesting. Literally, in all the districts where black turnout was high in these states, that's where they want to make the claims of voter fraud. And so again, it goes back to that conversation of maintaining that power structure. Everybody knows that even though the black vote is always taken advantage of, especially on the side of the Democrats, they just don't be getting it right sometimes, but most of the time. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Y'all just be dropping the ball, I swear, man. But everyone knows the black voter demographic is the demographic that can really shake the table in regards to elections. And so they know what's up with that. You know what I mean? And so it's just interesting. And then you get to Mitch McConnell, right? And so he's catching some smoke, and I don't know why, because it's not like he hasn't said anything we haven't heard before. So there's the whole clip where they ask him, "Well, aren't you concerned about the voter rights and blah 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 blah, and how that's going to disenfranchise people and so on and so forth?" And he was like, "Well, listen, no, not at all, because based on the last election, thank you, Marlon. Based on the last election, black voters voted just as much as Americans." I said, "Oh." Black voters voted just as much as Americans. I guess we I don't know what classification of people we are, so they just put us in another box. And so these politicians keep slipping up because it ain't just Mitch. Remember that time Joe was trying to do again one of these symbolic "I am America's president" speeches, and he was saying that piece about poor kids are just as talented as white kids. I'm like, what? What Twilight Zone am I living in? Just everybody crazy. But yeah, so with Mitch McConnell, it's just like there's nothing he can say that I didn't be shocked about. I wasn't even mad when he said it. I'm like, I'm just glad you finally confirmed what everybody's been saying for years and years and years. Thank you. Like, about time. And again, with Mitch McConnell, I always say follow the money. Okay, that man is worth $341 million in Kentucky. Nothing against Kentucky, but $341 million. You Senate salary, 174,000. I need to know where that other 340 plus million dollars comes from. Like, are y'all serious? Like, it's just follow the money. And again, his response, remember when they started having conversations of reparations, McConnell's response was, Obama was black people's reparations. So we're good. We're even. That's it. Hands your wife clean of it. Gotta let it go. All right. And so I think when you really look into politics, especially when McConnell got into power around like 2010, after the Dems lost the House, and not the House, the Senate, but whatchamacallit, it seems like politics in the United States became even more tribal, like very tribal. Where at that point, I think the idea of the good of the country was done. It was more so white nationalism, anti-blackness. We need to make sure the status quo doesn't get challenged again. So we're going to do everything in our power to make sure there will never be another great anything. And I think in response, that's one of the reasons why I think Joe Biden even got elected. Clearly, he wasn't really anybody's real candidate. Remember, like when the candidates were being announced, we were on here just going in like, no, we don't want him. There was all these other candidates. I wasn't excited about a lot of them either. But everybody that voted for Biden, or a lot of people who voted for Biden, knew that Biden would be the only person that white America would possibly vote for because he was safe enough for them, because they knew he wasn't going to go too far over. Because again, I've always said the man is business as usual. It is what it is. But I think people were like, at least there will be some stability, as opposed to I was about to cuss him, as opposed to what we've been witnessing the last 4 years. And again, his flaw, in my opinion, Biden, I just think runs on symbolism. And when you do that, when you don't have a realistic approach. Because let me tell you, Biden would have had a better shot with voters right now if he would be more upfront from the jump. Be honest and say, listen, it's chaos right now. We've come out of a very weird 20-year period. The economy is good for rich people. It's not really good for everybody else. A lot of other countries have been able to prosper and climb with healthcare and education and infrastructure and all these different things. We're a little behind. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. We're going to have a lot of opposition. There's going to be folks who don't want this, who don't want that. I can't promise I'm going to do everything, but I'm going to try. These are the people that I'm going to put into power. This is what it is we're trying to push. And if you guys can bear with us, we can try to get as much of this as we can. But no, it was none of that. That fool went up there and I'm going to be America's president. And I knew then, I was like, look, this, all right. So it's either the cuckoo one that again, we don't even, you got orange cuckoo man, or you got the one who thinks it's 96 and you can just say nice words and be friends with everybody. And at that point in time, there were so many crucial populations and demographics that are like, no, we're in a shit show right now. Sorry for cussing. And so we need more than the happy idea of everybody united. No, people have their rightful claims. Black Americans have a list of claims that we've been trying to get. The Latino community has what they want. Working class Americans have what they want. College age students who got all this debt have what they want. Like there's all these different battles. And so you can't come into an election and preside over a country with these very dated points and approaches that don't work anymore. This whole, even with that press conference, I know he did some kind of speech about his year in office. I didn't even watch it because there's some things that have been done. You know, I'll give him kudos for the 41 appointed judges and a handful of things, but there's a lot more things that, and yes, it's year one, but there's a lot of things that could be done way better. And so when he said that speech about, yeah, I'm a little disappointed with my friends in the Republican Party. They're not your friends. Like, this is not a business of friendship. This is real life for people. And so that's my beef. It's like, I wish he would have just not ran. Like I kept saying, it's cool that I still would have took him over crazy, man. I don't care how much y'all fight me on that. Because some folks are like, oh no, I told y'all that's what y'all voted for. Yeah, as opposed to what? Trump? We're now in a space where people have revised history and tried to paint Trump to be like this great president and he wasn't so bad for black folks. And you hear people saying like, oh yeah, black folks did better under Trump. No, what you saw was the residuals of what was left from the Obama administration that went well under Trump. Because under Trump, our taxes went up. Under Trump, Pell Grants were cut. And again, in my specific field, when I told you guys why I chose to vote for Biden, even though he wasn't really the candidate I was excited about, I was thinking of it from the standpoint of the field I work in. I work in nonprofit. And I'm telling you, after doing that for like 12 years, anytime Republicans are in power, we struggle. We lose funding, stuff gets cut. My center is in a public housing complex. And what was the main thing they were trying to cut when Ben Carson got in there? Public housing, cut the funding to that. All right. I got all of these high school juniors and seniors that are low income and extremely low income. I got some families living on $12,000 a year, and they got kids that are trying to go to college. And so again, Pell Grants, you had that administration start snip, 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 snip. That's going, nope, snip, snip. Like my beef with that side is that they never come with actual policy. Joe's crap is flawed. He and Kamala, I don't know what they're doing, but they're going to have to get it together. But my issue is, in my opinion, Republicans just never come with any policy. Theirs is just to say no and paint the person to be the bad guy, and we just going to strip. There's never a tangible policy. And before y'all come on here and talk about that 2-page proposal they have for black folks, I don't want to hear it. 2 pages is not equitable for 40 million people. Absolutely not. So I'm just not having it. And so again, like the issue I had, it's like you keep running on this symbolism crap and nobody wants to hear that. What's the policy? Where are we going with this? And so it brought me to, again, I think one of the things he thought was going to happen when he ran, he was under the assumption that he was going to have a supermajority and it was just going to be a smooth ride. Because look at all the things that were promised. Oh, it was going to be, they were going to cancel $50,000 worth of student debt, and they were going to do this, and it was going to be the child care. And mind you, a lot of that was, the policy was written. However, again, y'all can get as mad as you want with this current Senate, but it's a 50-50. It's pretty much a tie plus Kamala. In my opinion, none of that is getting passed without a supermajority. And now we're in a space where people are like, well, I'm just not voting anymore. I'm done. They ain't did it right for me. I'm done. I told y'all not to vote for that nonsense. And my issue with that is, I think people need to understand that multiple things can be true at once. We're now in a space where our politics has become so one-dimensional, and it's either one extremity or the other. That middle ground, and the idea of looking at a bigger scope and looking at things on a spectrum, just like I said in that Michael and Beyonce video, the idea of looking at our politics through a spectrum that is not linear. So it's not a one side or the other. It's look at what works, what doesn't. What are the pros? What are the cons for whoever is in power? And I think we're now at the space where when people don't get the one thing they want, because we also have a lot of one issue voters, once they one issue is done, they just tap out. And so it's kind of like, I think people need to realize like this is just not. I think people have to be deeper, in my opinion. And so we're now in a space where you have a few options, like right. So some people are saying, well, okay, or at least in my opinion, your options are if you're not happy with what's happening, you either start pushing some candidates that you feel are going to, get you to where it is you want to get to, right? You can. Some people are saying push for the supermajority in the midterms. They're saying maybe because you didn't really have a majority, and really Manchin and Sinema are pretty much Republicans, you're just going to need more of them in there to get stuff done. Because again, even when I think of a conversation of reparations ain't coming with a majority anything by Republicans. Democrats don't want to give reparations either, to be honest. But I think the leverage, there's a tad bit more leverage with one side than the other. It ain't a whole lot, but and then again, the idea of third party, which I think we started doing lives in 2018, right? And so I think that's around the time I started saying the idea of third party. And so my purpose with third party is not for the third party to win, because American politics is too bought out. There's too much money in it. There's no third party candidate that's going to have a viable push to really shake up and defeat one of the two major parties. However, you operate a third party to gain leverage with one of the parties, right? And so, but that third party has to have enough backing. So when we talk numbers, right? In a normal kind of election year, I won't count 2020 because that was the year where you had just like some huge, huge numbers, right? There was like 80 million voted for one, like 74 voted for the other. But in an average election, like a 2016, like a 2012, right? You had normally have about 130 million Americans vote. And then the votes are usually kind of split around the middle. So both candidates are about at anywhere between like 62 and 66 million votes from both sides. One usually has about 66, one has 62, something in the middle. Electoral college kicks in and does the rest of the damage. And so imagine if you had a party that had a pool of 20 million voters out of that. So you were able to take that 20 million out of those two sets of 60. So you got that 135 plus, million voters, but you can, let's say out of that 135, only 115 are 100% dedicated to one of the two major parties. That other 20 are like, we're bouncing. So now you get to that 20 million. The other two parties need that 20 million in order to guarantee their win or their victory. And so what do? That third party starts to leverage and say, well, we won't support you if you're not going to do this, that, or whatever. And of course, they probably have their own candidate that they're going to push. But when that candidate has to concede because they've been overbought and overspent and bought out, and they have to concede and they want to push their supporters to one of these candidates, you go to the party that is, pretty much vouching and saying, these are the things that we want to do, but not just what we want to do, but show me the policy, show me the written policy that's already there. Show me how you're going to implement it. Show me how it's going to get done. Give me a timeline. I don't want to just hear a nice speech. I don't want fireworks and balloons and streamers and cake and candles and ice cream and sprinkles and the clown and the donkey and the horses coming in. Give me the actual I want to see the numbers. I want to see how this works. I want to see how this goes into play, how this affects, what's the rollout method? What is this, like a 10-year thing? How does this work? I want to see all of that, before we even consider going that route. Like, I think that's the idea of third party, because right now Democrats are comfortable with just anything goes. And again, like we've always said, when it comes to the black vote, they know a lot of times they're going to get the black vote, because as frustrated as Black Americans are with Democrats, a lot of Black Americans also know that if Republicans go into power, it's more stuff stripped away. And especially at least in my generation, as my generation's parents are getting older and they're getting into their 70s, some in their 80s, and we start having conversations of Social Security and, Medicare, Medicaid, and all those different things, and Republicans keep cutting it. Why does it show? Is my thing still live? Okay, we'll find out. They keep, okay, for some reason it says it's one person here. Are you guys, I hope my stream did not just die on me. This thing better still be going. Oh, okay, so good. All right, but anyway, YouTube is over here trying to shut me up. I just watched my count go from like 415 to 1. But anyway, there's all these different things that we have to also think about in regards to our grandparents, our parents who have these mortgages and everything. And when y'all keep doing these tax cuts on populations with fixed incomes, and I'm saying tax cuts for the rich, but raising the taxes on working and middle class Americans, and then they're on a fixed income, that's something detrimental. That indirectly plays into something like a gentrification and different things like that. And when we're talking about childcare and the fact that you can't even get no days off when you have a baby, I'll never forget a good friend of mine, when she had her child, a week off, a week. I don't even think women the stitches have healed after a week. Especially if a woman tears giving birth a week, you got to come back to work. All right, and then so Black Americans, I think many just understand that a vote for the Democrat side is not an endorsement. It's just keeping us above the water. And so I think all of us want to get into a space where we can be above the water and past that, where we can actually fight for things that we want, and we don't always have to vote on the defense, because that's where we've always been. We have to use our votes as defense against all of the different things that come in our direction. And so I know people are going to say, well, Democrats, blah, 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 and somebody's going to come in here and bring up the Dixie crack conversation, and Democrats used to do it. But we know that. But see, at this point, once you've learned history, we don't have to keep repeating talking points that are now dated, because again, we can go back and be politically educated. Yes, Democrats and Republicans used to almost be on opposite ends. We know about the Southern Dixiecrats. We know about the great shift. We know, and the reason why that shift took place and what happened and so on and so forth. We know the conversation around voting rights in the 60s, all these different things. At this point, I need us to get to a space where everything is not so obtuse. Yes, it's still Jim Crow Joe. Yes, with the crime bill ain't went nowhere. People are still suffering from that crap. Yes, I get it. But I'm like in a space where, how does this all fit in on that spectrum? So let's just say everybody chooses to sit out. F it, we're done. Let the Democrats learn a lesson. Because a lot of people are saying sit out so people can learn a lesson. And I think the issue with that, again, is because this is more than a power grab and it's an idea to maintain, every time we're not really like there. And again, my definition of not sitting out does not mean you just have to vote for Democrats. Like I said, put some third-party candidates in there, especially on the local level. Like the local level is where third-party candidates really shine, because they're not as bought out. When you're talking about city council, when you're talking about school boards, when you're talking about like all of these different boards and these different positions that are elected at a state level, that's when you can really put third party. But I will say with third party, you also need to vet and pay attention to who's third party, because let's be honest, a lot of the third party candidates who have run for president were not good candidates either. The stuff that they wanted to put in, yeah, I'll give, the Jill Stein team credit for at least having a conversation about reparations. But a lot of these people who run third party are on some BS too. So it's like, you got to vet everybody and everything. And so I think we have to get into a space where understand that American politics is an ongoing thing. Nothing is ever set in stone. However, policy and practice and almost what you could say that grasp and element of power and control becomes harder to seam rip when more people, or at least more people in one position of power, continue to latch on and I guess you could say enhance the power that they already have. And so again, when we're seeing what's happening with voting rights, there's a reason why they're trying to strip it, because they know black folks, if black folks do what black folks do, you can really shake the table, right? And really shake up things. And honestly, going back to Biden's little dream ticket, going back, I really think they thought they were going to have a supermajority. And in my opinion, 2020 wasn't a good year for Democrats. Yeah, Joe got in, but barely. And I think that's because when you really look at it, yes, Joe had a lot of Republicans say, we can't do Trump. Sorry, we're going to vote for Joe. But who did they still vote for down ballot? They still put every Republican they wanted in down ballot. It didn't change much. And I know there's been a down ballot conversation. I know Ados was definitely talking about down ballot in the 2020 election. As far as, okay, don't vote for Joe, but let's go Democrat on everything else and push that. And I think, I forgot what FBA's plan was. I've been paying attention to all of the different groups and movements and just seeing where everybody is politically. And so it's almost like, everybody had all these different plans, but white folks even had their own plan. They said, well, okay, we'll put Joe in, but we're still going to vote for whatever. And again, for them, Joe was safe because, again, like I said, he was business as usual. And so, it's just like, man, I just think with our politics, I really like the idea of pushing third party. I think that's the only way you're going to really break up some of the power that's in these two parties. But we have to be honest and understand that it's not going to be likely that a third party candidate will actually win. The last third party candidate in a presidential election that even had a shot was Ross Perot. And that still wasn't that much of a shot. And so, again, using third party to pretty much find the leverage within whichever party you plan to support, and then pretty much say, listen, you're not going to get us if we don't get this. But the problem is that third party has to have enough leverage, enough people. There's never enough people in any movement. And so, in my opinion, I think you at least need 20 million to really shake a table. I think there's a lot of groups, there's a lot of movements, but the numbers aren't there yet. And so for those groups, I say, y'all keep fighting on, do what you got to do, build those coalitions. And like I've been saying, you also have to groom these candidates for, years out. I think in 2018 was when I started saying, already have that candidate, whether it's for governor or senator or Congress or mayor or whatever, ready for 2024, 2026, 2028. Like, you got to think way out there, because they have to have enough time to build a coalition, enough time for the verbiage, for the ideas to get out there, enough time for the ideas to go from being seen as radical to out of pocket to there's no way in hell to, okay, maybe we'll think about it, to maybe this ain't that bad, to, okay, we might hear them out. Like, you need all of that. And so, like, politics is an ongoing game. And so I just don't think it's wise right now, because things aren't that great, to just say, I'm done with all of it. I'm just going to sit out and be an I told you so disciple, because those kind of people get on my nerves too. There's a lot of people that are in I told you so land, right? You never hear where they stand on anything until stuff hits the fan. Then they be the first, I told y'all so. That's what I told you. And then, okay, what did you tell us? Well, go ahead and tell us what's next, what we need to prepare for, so we can go ahead and work against this. School us, school me. I'm ready. I'm always eager to learn. And so I've also kind of been on this little mission where I've just been paying attention to a lot of conversations. And so anytime people kind of come with the I told you so conversation, or that's what y'all voted for, so what's up? I always ask, okay, well, what do you think the solution is? And I'm not even here to fight you. What's the solution? I will honestly hear you out if it makes sense to me. And nobody ever has a solution. Everybody has these crazy, I'm like, what did you just, folks was, man, one was telling me we need to just get on the boats and go back to Africa, because, you know, they got gold in Ghana, and what we can do, we can teach the people in Ghana about the gold. And I was like, what? What? First of all, now my hair look crazy. First of all, okay, if we, that's another conversation. But first of all, if you're gonna do this conversation of going back across the water, and first of all, Ghana knows what's up with their gold. Unfortunately, the Chinese are over there digging all of that up right now and recolonizing Ghana. They got their own battles to fight. And I think we need to get out of the habit of thinking that just because we all look the same, you get to go to some other country and they're gonna be welcoming with you, bringing your ideas of government and your ideas of culture into their space. These are their own countries with their own ways of doing things. We just can't go in and think just because, you know, we came from America, we just do whatever. No, our battle, in my opinion, is right here on this land. So, you know, best wishes to everyone across the diaspora with all of the battles that you all are fighting, whether it be fighting for reparations from the countries that have colonized you, whether it be getting reparations from Portugal or France or the UK, and the people in the Caribbean and Central and South America who are fighting and clawing to get, you know, what is rightfully theirs and make things right. I support each and every one of you. But as for me in my house, okay, I got to take care of home right now. So no, going to Africa and talking about mining gold. So now we sound like colonizers. We're going to go over there and steal their gold. What kind of nonsense? But again, you keep hearing so many, like when I ask for a solution, nobody has anything that's actual, like, you remember how like at work, they always tell you SMART goals, like SMART goals, you know, specific, measurable, attainable, timely. I forgot what the M means. Oh no, I skipped it. Timely, are realistic, whatever that crap means. You know, you give me something that makes sense. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to come and constantly tear down the people that are at least trying, I need you to come with something. This just can't be you sit on the sidelines and watch the ship sink, and then I told y'all, yeah, life vest was right over there. Yeah, we know the life vests were there, but we weren't trying to use it until the ship started sinking. We trying to make it work. So what's next? So again, I need the people who are very like, I told you so. Give me more than that. What is the solution? Because y'all gonna raise hell in this comment section. So go ahead and drop them solutions in the comment section. I'm gonna probably get to it at some point. Yeah, drop those solutions, start those movements, do whatever. But there's so many people who are only in a space of I told you so. We don't need that right now. This ain't about you. This ain't about your ego. This is about how do you fix the nonsense that we're in? Because it ain't all just on Joe Biden. This, in my opinion, from the 60s onwards, has been chaotic. At least before then, the country was still in a good place, even though black folks and everybody else had to suffer under whiteness. But things were still in a good place as a result of us ending and winning World War II, and the economy was really, really good, and life was really great. You could live off of one income and buy a house and buy a car and pay for college, and inflation was high. Yeah, cool. But since the 60s onwards, it's been chaotic. Lots of corruption on both sides with both parties. Lots of terrible people in office, terrible people who were elected, horrible laws that were put into play, laws that were so detrimental, we're still paying for them today. And so this is bigger than just what we're seeing after 2020. It's bigger than just Trump. I don't even put all the smoke that sucks with America on Trump. It's chaotic. Even under Obama, there were chaotic things that took place. There were chaotic things that took place under Clinton, Bush 1, Reagan, Carter, like Ford, he wasn't even in that long. He was messing up stuff. Okay, Nixon, like all these presidents have some nonsense. Oh, I'm not worried about the trolls. They'll be all right. They giving me some extra monetization so I can buy me a new microphone for my studio. So y'all keep trolling and commenting because it makes my little rate go up as far as YouTube engagement. So thanks, you're helping my analytics. God bless. And so it's just like, man, I need to take a pause because I've been going for a good minute and I did not even get the chance to go to the comments. So I'm gonna read like 5 comments. If I missed your comment, I'm sorry. Just for the sake of time, I don't want to scroll way back up because I did a whole hour and didn't keep it moving. Lovely Coley 211 said politics won't please everyone, but canceling student loans would bring a lot of unity. I do think you have leverage in that. My question with that as well, though, because even when you talk about the conversation of the wealth gap, it's going to definitely benefit a lot of Black Americans who have college debt. But then I also think of white Americans who already have it made might still have college debt. And for them, I just hope if that goes, there needs to be something that does not put Black Americans further into a lower space when it comes to the wealth gap. That's my only concern. But I support the idea of canceling a lot of student debt because, again, all of that predatory lending from a lot of these companies and with Sally Mae, and that's why when folks that came out of like the 1960s try to talk about, well, I worked my way through college. I worked at Wendy's. And I'm like, yeah, but college tuition was like $500 for the year. All right. You got kids right now that got to pay $46,000 a year for school, $28,000 a year for school. Like that's some nonsense. And that's why, again, Joe, you can't run on these different promises. And then like when you started seeing them try to compromise with the Build Back Better bill and this bill and that bill, they started stripping away. Because again, this idea of reaching across the aisle, we have to make sure everybody's on point so we can say we did this together. And the first thing they cut, all right, well, there's the student loan debt, or even the conversation. Remember, Kamala was like, yeah, it's gonna be $2,000 checks a month. We gonna take care of y'all. And that was, we don't even worry about that. Y'all good. We good. We opened up the economy now. And so again, just understand y'all run on certain things. People are expecting what you said you're gonna run on. And that's why I also say when you vote for a candidate, you're not married to them. It's not an endorsement of everything that they do or what they're going to do. It's just that at that moment in time, they had the best presentation of what it was you thought fit best for you at that moment. But then the next step is you got to keep your foot on it. Can't even say that anymore. Thanks, George, or freaking Derek Chauvin. You just got to keep the fire on them. I was going to say foot on the neck, but I don't like that reference anymore. Anyway, let me keep going. I'll do a few more. Somebody said, what am I going to do with a gold bar? Yeah, that's the next thing. Folks going to have gold. Ain't going to know what to do with it. Holding on to it. All right, we're going to put that under the bed. All right. There ain't no conversation about the gold exchange rate and all that other stuff. Just forget the gold. We all just going to have some gold. All some gold. There's 40 million of us. We all going to squeeze in Ghana. It's already full over there. We're going to bring everybody over there. Accra is going to be full. All right. Kumasi going to be packed. Upper Volta region. We're going to be in there shoulder to shoulder. All right. Anyway. All right, let me do a few more. This is good. They said, what's their name on Gays Talk? All right, everyone wants a quick fix to a 400-year problem. The base work is still happening. Change is slow. And so even with change being slow, it's still the idea of you have to still be proactive as the change is moving to try to get it faster. But that's the other thing, like you said, like the nonsense we're living in, it's pretty much embedded in the country. It's ingrained in the blood and soil of how this country operates. And for some reason, a lot of people have this perception that once a super magical candidate gets in, everything's going to be fixed. It's kind of like, for those who are in my age range, and even people who were like born and raised in 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. Remember, like, as we were coming into Y2K, everybody thought, yeah, once the year 2000 hits, we're going to be living like the Jetsons, like, cars going to be flying. You just going to come in the house and push one button and the couch is going to pull out and the stove is going to turn on and the TV will, like, we thought all that stuff was going to happen overnight, right? We were like, what? And then 2000 came and everything was still about the same. I was like, huh? Okay. All right. Here we are. Okay. I guess I'll go and watch Malcolm in the Middle now, so like gonna have to do a little bit more than that. But let's see. Somebody said we definitely need a movement. I think there's a lot of movements. I think the problem is a lot of the movements don't agree. And that's fair because, again, in my opinion, Black people are the only collective that are forced to kind of operate as a unit or as a monolith politically because, we are not a monolith. However, anti-Blackness and white supremacy comes down on us as one. And unfortunately, because we've never known liberation ever, as long as we've been here, we've seen a handful of strides and some milestones and some accomplishments. We've never known liberation. So nobody has the perfect formula as to what works. And on top of that, you're fighting against a system that is ongoing and evolving and shifting with the times. And so, yes, it's graduated from fire hoses to policy. It's graduated from Klan rallies to let's go and attack the curriculums at the school. It's graduated from assassinating leaders to let's find more ways to imprison people. Let's go ahead and let's change the tax codes again. Let's put in the opportunity zones because they ran on that and said that would help Black communities when in reality opportunity zones help to speed up the gentrification process. If you remember opportunity zones with the last administration, what was that? That gave investors and people that were developers, pretty much tax breaks to go and develop in areas that were deemed as developing or that needed opportunity. These were specifically Black areas and Black or brown areas and a lot of areas where there are a lot of poor people. And what ended up happening was with the rule, you already had to have whatever it was that you were going to do super established. And so when it came for what was going to take place, all of the big investors, the big developers, the multi-billion-dollar corporations swarmed in, overpowered the mom and pop type folks. And because there were no line items in that legislation that said, whatever you do, it has to benefit that specific community in which you're developing. There has to be jobs afforded to the people in that community. Whatever you create cannot be detrimental to the local economy of that region. None of that was in there. And so what ended up happening, the majority of the businesses that showed up to the opportunity zones was luxury real estate and hospitality as far as hotels and resorts. And so the people in those areas got pushed out, got taxed out. And so again, it sped up the process of gentrification, if anything, but it was marketed as this is being done for Black folks. And they ran with that and pushed that as some super great policy when in reality, Black people didn't benefit from that at all. And then again, still the idea of even just getting into the bank to get that loan approved. All the banks that were saying, nope, can't get approved for that. Absolutely not. And even when you talk about with real estate, how still redlining still exists today. It's just in different form. Remember we talked about what was happening on Long Island, where the realtors specifically were making sure that they did not sell to Black tenants to make sure that Long Island would stay the way it was. Like, this crap ain't new. This stuff has so many layers to it. All right. Let me do one last one. Let's see. Makara 34 said, can we stop calling ourselves Black? We're the first peoples of the world. We need a better identity class. I think, okay, so my thing is this. I don't have an issue with the term Black because I feel like the Black collective took the term and embraced it and used it as a term of endearment and power and celebration. There's power behind the name Black. And I think right now, because I know there's a million names we all got. Some people want to call us the natives and there's 1,800,000 names. Now, I do understand when you want to talk about the lineage or specifically lineage, and then yeah, it gets a little deeper. But as far as like Black Americans, when I say Black, I'm talking about Black Americans, and anybody who aligns within the way that the Black collective operates and how we're treated. Yes, Black is global, but I think I don't see Black as a bad name. I don't. Now I do understand specifics when we start talking policy, you start talking legislation, and when you are trying to give certain things to specific groups of Black people, then yes, there needs to be a distinction about who is what. But I think Black, I've never seen Black as a bad term. I often get kickback sometimes. People, there's suggestions for different names, and then some of the names y'all got to be having 35 syllables. I'm like, dang, this is a whole essay. Okay, but everybody's free. Everybody is free to feel how they feel. All right, I want to keep moving. But I just like Black. It sounds good to me. I like to say Black. I am Black. Some power behind it. You got to say with some conviction. Black. Say with Black. Say it with some conviction. I had to put some bass in my voice. Let me see. I want to keep it moving. All right, I'm gonna skip through all that because I kind of covered most of that already. God, we are still on the same. This is the longest topic. My God. And so with everything that I've been saying, I just think people have to look at the bigger picture. Everything that's happening is not, again, something that's short-term within this moment, but it's something that exists. The policy that's going in is long-term. Some of this stuff will follow us the next 20, 30, 40 years. And we have to remember that though we may be disappointed, our egos can't get in the way of progress because again, we're having children, we got grandkids, we got to make sure there's a world left for them as well. We got to make sure that things are set up. So this isn't the time to tap out because this ain't even the biggest battle we're fighting. And so I'm like, dang, especially when you really get to the conversations around reparations and restitution and all that kind of stuff, everybody's gonna have to be all hands on deck. So we can't get the stories every 5 minutes. And again, when you're just seeing what's happening, we just saw what's happening in the floor with that bill that's about to pass. What is it? The discomfort bill. Again, it's one of these bills where, again, any kind of conversation around history, white people can't be uncomfortable with the conversation, which means you just ain't gonna talk about anything. Just done. You see what happened with Virginia, right? Which again, that election was interesting because one, I didn't think what's his name should have ran for re-election to begin with because he wasn't a good governor when he was governor, and so they should have sent somebody else. And I think one of the flaws that has also existed with a lot of Democrats, they keep running on the Trump is the bad guy narrative. That's done. Y'all got to do more than that. Trump, you can't scare America into voting in regards to Trump will come back. Who cares? Well, I shouldn't say who cares, but like that's not moving anybody. Like that's not going to make people want to hear policy. And so I think so many people ran on the idea of how terrible Trump was, and the boogeyman theory. Who cares? You're going to have to bring some policy. What is it that you're going to do? And so a lot of people just did not connect with the Democrat candidate that ran for governor of Virginia. They're like, absolutely not. No. And then even when you look at the numbers, you saw a huge portion of the Ethiopian community actually voted for the Republican candidate. And that was because of America's response to what was happening over in Ethiopia in regards to what was happening with Tigray. And so, like, there's so many layers to all of that, but you just see what's happening. And so now that VA governor is in power, he lifted that mask mandate at the school. And so I'm like, oh, Lord, oh, children, Jesus. But, that's some ongoing stuff. He's he put some kind of anti-CRT legislation on day one and all these other crazy things that are taking place. And so, again, you're seeing what's taking place. You're seeing the influx of what's happening with school boards and how the curriculums are being challenged to change. They're changing all of that because you can't have an enlightened demographic of people because when they're enlightened, they ask questions. And when they ask questions, even if you give the answer, they're still going to go and do their own research. And when they start finding the truth, they want to change what's flawed within that truth of what that reality is and make things better. And so it goes against the status quo. And so that's why there's such a hard press to CRT. We must take race out of that. We must cancel the diversity train. Like all of this stuff that they're trying to gut and strip because they're trying to get America back to a place where people weren't asking all these questions, back when people used to just shut up and let things be the way they were. All right, that's where we're at. And so you just continue to see so much taking place. And so with all of the corruption, with all of the election committees that they're starting to strip away, we've seen how many corrupt judges were put into play. What was so funny, if you ever had a chance between 2017 and 2020 to watch some of the hearings for the people that were confirmed as judges, some of these people never even practiced law. And they're judges. Never practiced law, no litigation. They are federal judges, there for life. My blood pressure gets high just thinking about it. And so again, you're seeing just everything taking place, especially Texas. I don't know what's going on over there. It's the wild, wild west down there. The conversations around like women's rights, all of these different things that are taking place, even with accountability with police. It's so funny where in 2020, there were all these pledges. All the corporations had all these things to say. And, yeah, we're going to pledge this for social justice and 20 million. Ain't nobody got no money that's cut. All of the conversations around how they were going to restructure police departments, most of those have died out. Most of the policy did not pass. And a lot of police departments got even more funding. But then what makes it funny, a lot of them have run with the narrative of, oh, we were defunded. So, I can't remember what police department it was, but they were like, the numbers were super low because everybody got COVID. We just had that wave, or some of you guys are still in the wave, but that wave that hit around Christmas time. And it was like, oh, well, due to the funding, we won't be able to help. No, everybody got COVID. Like, that's what it is, or whatever. Or even, again, you keep seeing the articles, oh, over 1,000 police died. 2020, 2021 was the deadliest year for police. And it's like, y'all don't say that they didn't die from COVID. Y'all try to say it was all at the hands of violence. No, most of the people died from COVID. So it's just like you're seeing the narrative shift and change, all to kind of, again, maintain that status quo. And again, the conversation around tax law and ensuring that the rich even get more tax cuts. Because I'm telling you right now, if Republicans get the House and the Senate again, there's going to be another tax cut for Republicans. Like, it's coming. Just be ready. That's all I'm saying. The other thing I want to get at too, because there's been this narrative, and it's funny because cinema was getting so much smoke, and I kept saying, like, I don't know why y'all had an expectation for her. Like, understand, for some reason, society wanted to paint white women as the face of compassion. And I've just never seen it. Because, again, the same way they've been touting around Liz Cheney as a hero because she's giving smoke to Trump about January 6th, you see, she didn't vote for that voting rights thing, right? No. right? Susan Collins, that main one who's always so concerned. I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Oh, I heard what. Ah, I'm concerned. I'm so concerned. I am. Every time something crazy, I'm concerned. I am concerned. She concerned, and that element of concern never makes it to the floor. She beat and forgot about it by the time she goes to vote, right? Even with the Trump stuff, what did she say? He learned his lesson. I'm like, y'all get on my damn nerves. And it's like, damn, what are y'all good for around here? But no, that narrative of just kind of, I don't know where this idea of painting them to be just the compassionate moral compass of the world. Nah, because even when 2016 was taking place, I remember seeing so many narratives where it was like, don't worry. When a lot of these women, especially white women, get behind those polls, and these mothers and daughters and sisters, when they get behind the polls, they're going to think about the women's rights and they're going to vote. I'm like, no, white women, listen, white Americans, especially those that are married, vote as households. As long as their husbands are good, they're good, right? As long as their husbands are good and the money's coming in, they're fine with voting for whatever. They're fine, to go and who cares about abortion rights? Because they got enough money. They can go behind some back alley and go, or not even a back alley. They can take a private flight to wherever, or pay some doctor to come to the house and do it and keep it moving. It's good. It is what it is. Who cares about whatever? Like white women, it's just there's been this narrative, and it comes from our media, all of our movies, Freedom Riders, Dangerous Minds. Freedom Riders is the one that gets me because, again, when we talk about symbolism, right? You have these inner city kids who, again, are the end result of really bad policy, end result of redlining, job discrimination, racism, everything else like that. And so they live in a world that is not reflective of where the teacher lives, right? And so what happens? Write it in your journal. Write it in your journal. Kid comes in, I got shot in the face. Write it in your journal. Kid comes in, I'm pregnant. Write it in your journal. Kid comes like, man, I accidentally killed my best. Write it in your journal. So they wrote everything in these journals, and then the movie ends. But I'm like, but their lives, when the school year's over and when they graduate, they're still in the same predicament. So, and it's the same thing with Dangerous Minds. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite movies, but I can't even enjoy it the same way now that I liked it as a kid. I can't enjoy it the same way, but I always think of that scene where she's like, there are no victims in this classroom. And she said it with like such distinction and conviction because she was so pissed that they were complaining about the fact that when they walk to school, they almost get shot, or when they get on the bus, they almost get robbed. And she was, no, they don't. You guys have a choice. Da, 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 da. But even with that movie, it's like when it ends, okay, so she decides not to quit and she stays for another year. But her staying there and giving them hope does not change the structure of their lives. It doesn't change the structure and the policy of what would have reflected where they lived. It wouldn't change anything. It just would have made them feel good. But so it's like, man, but I don't know who the PR teams are, but some of these PR teams, they've been putting in work, okay? It's kind of like how we all thought kangaroos were nice animals. And it turns out them things are mean as hell. They stay fighting and kicking and fighting everything all the time. But as kids, we thought they were these fun, loving, happy, jump-go-lucky little animals in Australia, right? So, man. All right, I think that page is done. Jesus. I'm gonna skip all that too. Let me take a pause. I'm out of breath. Thank you, King Delight. And again, this is not a video to just all of a sudden have smoke for Republicans and act like Democrats ain't messing up too. But the thing is this, I think we're at a space where our disappointment and frustration with Democrats has gotten so high that all of a sudden we almost turned a blind eye to what's happening with the Republican Party on the other side. And so, yeah, we're trying to give smoke. And yes, both GLK, the two sides of the same coin conversation. Yes, all of that. But then it's like we're watching that attempt to, again, structure and change everything to ensure that that idea of white supremacy and anti-blackness stays sealed in and protected by law. And I don't know, man. Again, the idea of a spectrum, we just can't be here or there. Multiple things can be true at once. Everybody can catch some smoke. Everybody can catch some. Everybody. But it's just recognizing that this is not the time to tap out and act like stuff is normal. We are not living in a normal time at all. This is all chaotic, right? All right. Anyway. Deborah Miller. Oh, a fear channel. It's nothing but a cold. Oh, no, Deborah. Sorry. I had a coworker die from that crap. It ain't a cold. He was on a ventilator in 1 week. Y'all going to have to be realistic. Again, COVID, I get it. The thing with COVID, in my opinion, everybody responds to it differently. But the problem is you're seeing so many people who actually end up extremely just broken down, even if they don't die. The long-term nonsense that's associated with it. A lot of people who have all these random conditions, everything from hair falling out and other, or especially if you already have some other disease. That's pretty much what killed my uncle the other month. He already had cancer and he was already kind of in remission, and then COVID came and it just made things worse. Like I need us to just get out of our egos. Like, this is not a time to politicize everything. Sometimes stuff just happens. It's life. Pandemics happen. So I think we got to get out of the idea of trying to paint this as, oh, it's all. I do think there is a lot of elements of politics in how the response has gone. There's a lot of stupid things that have taken place, but I think we need to be realistic. We've gotten to the space where we think we know everything, everything. And this is not directed to you, Deborah, but like we're just in a space where everybody, like now everybody's smarter than everybody and everything. And a lot of people have not done the research. They just all Instagram posts and Twitter, and now we know it all. Like whatever. Anyway, so let's keep it moving. Carlton Banks said Biden a babbler. See, Biden, if you're gonna do all that talking, I just need to see the policy. I just need to see it done. So it goes back to just, man. Brian Kenneth said, as a VA native, it was sickening. I got drunk that night. And it was weird because I kind of started to think, I was like, Youngkin is probably gonna win this thing. Because he was smart how he ran. You know, he ran this campaign where the imaging was very safe. He didn't say anything too out of pocket yet. It right on the line. So, you know, again, with I cannot remember the Democrat's name. I forgot his name. But even with his campaigns, it was the idea of pushing him to be another version of Trump. I was like, that's not going to work because now we're in a space where a lot of white folks miss Trump. And there's even some black folks miss him at this point. Okay, there is that 13%, right? And so it was kind of like, that's not going to work. And so what was funny, though, I like how he stole Warnock's campaign. Remember Warnock in Georgia had the campaign about the dogs, and they're like, oh, they're going to say I don't like dogs now. Youngkin had the exact same commercial. I'm like, how you gonna still? Okay, a mess. It's a mess. All right. Oh, y'all are here fighting about COVID now. Here we go. I ain't talking about COVID tonight. Y'all have fun. All right. Anyway, where are we at here? Bookaholic Blue said, yeah, white women will save themselves and their families. And I think that's one of the things people have to think about. Like this idea of painting people to be extra compassionate, that's done, especially with white women. I'm sorry, because even with 2020, they voted even at a higher percentage for Trump that time. It was 53 the first time, it was 57 the second time. So like, yeah, they listen. And it ain't all of them, but there's enough of them to make this argument to make that conversation around the sample size. So yeah, it's there. So they're not a monolith with how they vote. And so you don't know what you're going to get. Anyway. Somebody said, but they got journals, Calvin. That was my beef with the movie. Everything, go back and watch that movie. Them students was going through it, all right? They was having some rough lives. Write it in your journal. Okay, that's cool, but maybe you should give them a plan to help them get out of something. Give me something more. Maybe you should show up to the school board meetings and say, we need this. Do more. Don't worry. I think Mad TV had a skit one time. It was like, I'm a white woman. And so it was kind of like making fun of that idea of, don't worry, they can fix it. Man. All right. But yeah. And by the way, as far as re-election, 2024, I don't think he needs to run. I'm sorry. I don't know what they need to do, but I don't know. 2024, don't even ask me. We'll get to it when we get to it. I'm just like, Lord, please let there be some kind of candidate that we have never heard of that shows up and shows out. And because 2024, I'm just like, unless he has some magical, whimsical stuff that gets done in the next 2 years, it ain't look good. Sorry. And this goes back to what I said in the beginning. He shouldn't have ran to begin with. That's what I was saying. You go back to those lives when they were all starting to announce their candidacies. I was like, please don't let him please don't jump in. Please don't jump in. Because like I said, he was going to be business as usual, and he was going to run on symbolism and try to be everybody's friend. And that's what he's still doing. I'm just like, we got to get to the tangibles. We're done. All right. I'm not going to be the person to have a conversation about father time, because I think that would be in poor taste. But I'm like, we got to get realistic. That's why even with this Ukraine stuff, I was like, first of all, Joe, there's enough going on over here. Sorry, people in the Ukraine. Y'all going to have to figure that one out on your own. Or look, NATO, we ain't the only country in NATO. Some of y'all figure that out with Russia. We're occupied in America right now. America can't keep going and taking care of stuff. I know y'all got these promises. Y'all work it out somehow. Don't bring us in it. If you think black folks want to sign up to go get shot in the Ukraine, you done lost your mind. So no, absolutely not. Jesus. I don't see Trump being reelected, by the way. I do see, because I don't think he wants to, listen, unless there's this magical fire that gets behind him right now, I don't see him running again, because I don't think in the event that he has a chance to lose, I don't think he wants that kind of humiliation again. That ego is too big. But if he were to get in there, oh, it's going down there. We really about to catch it. It's vengeance. Okay. Anyway, let me see. I want to shift gears. I think we've had enough politics for tonight. All right. Oh, actually, hold on. Travis Timmons, thank you. I don't know if I want to say nobody over the age of 55, but definitely I do believe in term limits, and I do think some of these people need to hang it up. There's a lot of people that, in my opinion, if you will not be around to see the end result of your policy because Father Time would have called you, you probably should not be running. All right, you had your time, you had your moment. Let the new generations come in. We're the ones that got to live through this nonsense. Y'all, you're gonna be long gone while y'all over here tearing up stuff, right? So go ahead and enjoy the last years of life and spend them with your family and go sailing on the ocean blue or whatever y'all do. Like, do that crap and stop trying to be in charge of stuff. I don't know why people want to wait till they're 95 to be in charge of something. Being president's already stressful. That's gonna take a whole lot of folks out. So like let it go. I do. Somebody said 2008 B. Scott said maybe DeSantis. We're behind. We're behind. Like, I think DeSantis is probably going to run. And even when I was looking at the polling, even with the Republican Party, only about a third are really still like gung ho behind Trump. A lot have kind of shifted and are more so around the ideas of the party. But the ideas that Trump has not gone anywhere. There's going to be a whole bunch of candidates who have the same viewpoints and approach that are going to get into office. That's how we got Marjorie Taylor Greene. Right, ran unopposed, gets to go in there, and it is what it is. Yeah, so man, hot mess. But yeah, they're term limits because I keep looking at what's her name, Feinstein in California. I think if she runs again, she'll be 86. Ma'am. All y'all can't be Betty White. Everybody ain't gonna make it to 99. That's all I'm saying. All right. All right. I want to shift gears. So I saw, and I know we're going like way left field, right? Abbott Elementary, that new show on ABC. So I saw that the show, actually, I like the show. I saw it, I've watched every episode. It's pretty funny to me. But I saw that, for some reason, the show's been catching a lot of smoke, right? Some people, like, there's a handful of teachers and administrators who are like, this is just not realistic. And I saw that white woman who had the TikTok that went viral. She took hers down and apologized because she was or maybe she kept it up because she said she wanted the people to see where she made mistakes. But she had made the TikTok and was going off about everything in the show. Oh my God, the teachers have too much time where they get to talk to each other. That doesn't happen at my school. This, that, like she just ranted about all the things that were wrong. And then there was another person who was like, this is unrealistic. The Black character's a flaw. Guys, I think sometimes, especially in entertainment, especially if it's a sitcom and it's a comedy, everything cannot be, again, this whole obtuse one or the other. There is a spectrum that exists. And as somebody who works in the after school realm, I'm technically not a teacher. I run the after school realm. So I get the kids after they've had to sit down for 8 hours. You can imagine my world, right? As someone who works in that field, like, the show to me is hilarious because it's so reflective of so many things that you got to deal with. Like in an episode when they needed the funding, the $8,000 for whatever they were going to get, and then the principal used it to buy a new sign instead, I fell out dying. I was like, if that is not my world, like, yo, if you only knew some of the things you got to deal with in this field of work, like, man, I'll be so transparent. I spend at least $200 a month out of my pocket just paying for snacks, which I'm not supposed to do. That's already supposed to kind of be covered and so on and so forth. But there's so many times where there's things that take place. And even when you work with food banks, there's all kind of stuff. I always have to end up spending money just to be safe. I always end up spending money for incidentals. Sometimes we run out of batteries. We run out of tape. We need pencils. We need scissors. We need glue. We need this. A random kid don't got a coat. It was 19 degrees a few days ago. The kid ain't had a coat, just got a little light jacket. I felt so bad. I was like, come on, we're going to go to, I'm going to give me your shoes or your jacket size. I'm going to go to the store and get you a coat. Like, random stuff like that is our reality. And so the show I have no beef with because it's funny. It's nuanced. It is what it is. I think sometimes we got to loosen up. We can be serious, but I think there's other shows. If you want to give some smoke to some shows, give it to the shows that are actually technically problematic. I think sometimes folks just do the most. And what's interesting, and this is to a lot of the white teachers that had so much smoke for the show, because it's noticeable that it's coming from a lot of white folks. And I don't know if it's because there's a lot of Black leads on the show. And, you had Miss Brunson who started the show. You remember she blew up from like Vine and TikTok and Instagram, and she's really worked hard to get her show to where it is. And you also have old boy from Everybody Hates Chris, and you have the comedian as the principal and all these different people. And you even have the mama from Moesha. I'm messing up names tonight. See, I didn't eat enough vegetables. My brain is a little fried today. But you have all of them in there. So I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons why there's so much smoke all of a sudden. Everybody's just mad about Cheryl Lee Ralph. Thank you, Jalil Mason. There's so much smoke. And I'm like, y'all didn't have this smoke when there was a TV show called Teachers. I don't know if you remember. It was on Nick at Night. They had a show called Teachers. I think it still comes on too. It has like 3 or 4 seasons. It's about this school either in North Dakota, Idaho, or Wyoming, one of them states. And so all of the teachers are flawed because, again, it's a comedy. So I like the show. I watched that one too. But one of the teachers was in love with this man, and he had a relationship, and so she was stressed, and so she had the kids doing research on Tinder and Facebook and all of his stuff to see what he was doing. And so every time they read bad news, it was like the kids were like, it says in a relationship. And then the teacher started crying, everyone just put your heads down. Put your heads down. Like, so she's losing her mind. Another teacher wanted to be a reality star, so she made the kids help her set up her audition tape and do the backdrop. Like, so again, nobody had smoke for that. Nobody had smoke for the movie Bad Teacher with Cameron Diaz and Justin Timberlake. And now all of a sudden we want to pretend that, ooh, this show is too much. Loosen up. Like, some people just do too much. Everything does not, all the things that we want to fight for, folks be fighting for the wrong stuff. The wrong stuff. So whatever, it's a comedy. Live a little, okay? I'm just saying, because when I just think back, that show just reminds me so much of my experience. And with my podcast, I want to do episodes on where I work so bad, but I can't because I still work there. But any event that I ever transition somewhere else, those are going to be some of the best podcast episodes because I have stories for days. God, I have some stories, man. Everything. There was a day one time these parents were coming to jump me over something, and it wasn't even nothing I did. They were coming to fight one of the kids, but I told them they couldn't come there and fight no kid because y'all are grown. So they're like, well, you square up. I'm like, wait a minute, it's 8 of y'all. Hold on, wait a minute. 1, 2, wait. He about 6'5". Okay, this one's about 5'5". I might be able to take this one, but this one's probably all right. We're gonna have to use our words, folks. Like, man, you got some stories. But anyway, that'll be another day. So yeah, I'm about to say I can't wait to quit my job to do this podcast. But yeah, that'll be another story. Let me read a few comments. Like, man. Oh, I have a new podcast episode tomorrow too. It comes out tomorrow night. So it's a continuation of that middle school series. That'll be on the platforms. And so that's the 9th grade year. So I just finished recording it earlier today. I do the editing tomorrow and it'll come out tomorrow night. So yes, there will be a new comedically hard-headed podcast episode tomorrow night. Can't wait for y'all to hear it. Honestly, I think so far the last one is actually probably I can't even talk. Been my favorite one so far. Like, I was laughing while I was putting it together. I'm trying to be a little bit more frequent with the podcast. So we'll keep it moving. Let's see. All right, I want to read a few comments here. E. Allen said, my cousin is a principal, and I swear that principal acts just like her. It's scary. Let's see. Thank you, Let Love Rank. Teachers do have to fundraise for their supplies. And it's always been like, I don't think people realize teachers really get a short end of the stick. Now, I have my critiques about the education system in this country, but then what sucks is you have a lot of really great teachers who are trying, and there's just no support. The funding that keeps getting cut. Did you guys see that clip of the school in New York where the windows are open because they don't have the proper ventilation? And so because of the COVID thing, they just open the windows so all the kids in there with jackets. New York, listen, New York is not the place to be in the winter. It is not hot over there. All right. But no, you see so much. I think all of us had that same experience here in America where, you had that school list because, again, there already weren't enough money for supplies. You get the school list and you got to bring all of these different things already. The tissue box, all of those things. That was on that list. Markers, crayons, binders, spiral notebook, pencil sharpener, because some classes ain't even got a pencil sharpener. Bring well, in Washington State, we had to make our own earthquake kits too, just in case we had an earthquake and the whole school collapsed. You had to make an earthquake kit. So if the school fell apart, you pull them kits and, you eat your little Lunchable and Capri Sun or whatever is non-perishable. Maybe not a Lunchable because they got like ham and stuff in it. So something that graham cracker, something that canned soup, and there'd have to be like a lighter in the can and a can opener. I'm like, it's hard living we doing. So yeah, teachers deal with a lot. They're underpaid, they're underappreciated, even in regards to how everything's been happening in the last few years with COVID and how teachers have been treated and nobody really cares. It's just like they're now telling the teachers, come to school sick. We got to keep this going. Chaos, absolute chaos. I will always have a special place in my heart for teachers. Even though some of the ones that my kids go to, I'd be ready to fight. I ain't gonna lie. Some of them be doing some nonsense. I'd be able to light up some folks. But man, yep, Lysol, tissue. Man, they're very underpaid. I think anybody who works in public service is underpaid. A lot of those people should get a whole lot more, especially people in social work. It's ridiculous that social workers go and get a full master's degree and be making $50,000. I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money, but for the amount of debt you go in and for the amount of work social workers have to do, because I think for people in social work, they never get to stop. It's not a 9 to 5. They don't get full weekends sometimes. Some days are 13 and 14-hour day. Like, there's so much they have to do. And they really sometimes do put their lives on the line when they have to go into some of these spaces in hostile environments to go and check on folks and get stumped out and hit upside the head with a hammer. Like, man. So yeah. All right. Salamintu More said, "Yep, I bought one of my kids a coat as well." I have spent so much money at that center. I mean, and I don't mind doing it because it's. I mean, I shouldn't, but I think sometimes if your heart is in the right place, you don't mind spending extra money to just make sure that you can give the best of the best of the best. And because I already have a smaller center that doesn't have a lot of the additional resources that larger ones have, yeah, I try to make sure that the kids have the most optimal experience possible. I'm gonna gas up our center, and everything we do is gonna be top tier. Like, sometimes the kids get to do a fashion show, and they get to do a whole 3 wardrobe changes. We build a whole stage. They got lights. They got intermission entertainment. We gonna do it up. Only thing that's funny though, when you promise them something, they don't forget. December we did like a lip sync battle, and the grand prize was going to be Cold Stone. And then sadly, because DC had such a crazy COVID surge out of nowhere, like, okay, DC COVID numbers in June were like 12 cases a day, literally. And then 4th of July happened, the numbers start going up. And then come December, out of nowhere, like, or before December. So then, like, August to November-ish, the daily average as far as cases was anywhere between about 150 and 300 every day. We got to about December 18th, we were up to 2,000 cases a day. So I was like, all right, we closing this center for a few days, because at some point it's going to come to me, because like all the centers that we work with, everybody was having outbreaks. Everybody was catching it. And I'm like, I already had a coworker die. We're going to take a break. So anyway, we come back from break after Christmas. Man, it was like I couldn't even get the door. The kid's like, didn't you say you was getting us Cold Stone, Mr. Michael? You said, I'm like, dang, can I get the door good? Like, Happy New Year to y'all too. Dang. Like, they don't forget anything. They gonna remind you about their Cold Stone. And I was like, y'all gonna get it. Like, man, y'all don't even have this energy when it's time to bring the homework in. But okay, man. Somebody said you can still tell the stories, or Lachey Wilson. I know I can still tell the stories on podcasts, but the ones that are like really juicy, and the ones that are those ones that get people fired, not me fired, but maybe other people, let me get up out of there first. Plus, a lot of my kids watch my content. That's one of the reasons why y'all always laugh at me, because I don't like to cuss on here. I don't like to use profanity. One, out of respect for the elders who watch, because I have a lot of people over the age of 60 who watch, and I feel like it's my mother and her friends watching. So I'm like, I'm not gonna cuss for them. And then I got a lot of little kids and teenagers who watch my stuff. And so I just don't want to ever be too out of pocket, because I can't present myself one way at work and then they watch me in real life. I'm like, oh, Mr. Michael off the chain. Mr. Michael, we having all. Whoa. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Somebody said 15 years for the Supreme Court. I would agree with that. I don't like the idea of Supreme Court appointees being lifelong. I don't like that at all. Chaos. Somebody said, oh, Euphoria. Somebody said Euphoria is wild. They're talking about the TV show. I never knew how sheltered I was until I watched that show. All right. I thought I was a little off the chain in high school and a little wild and ratchet, but Euphoria, that is one wild, man. Oh, yeah, that is one wild show. I mean, it's no secret in high school, everybody was having sex and stuff, but the drugs, when I was in high school, folks just did a little weed here and there. I mean, these kids doing pills and angel dust and all kind. I was like, whoa. I was really sheltered. I was in the house doing homework. All right. We was in the house watching Making the Band on 8-way. Anyway, Ken Shabazz said they cuss. Trust me. Oh, I know. Look, I know my kids cuss like sailors and do everything else, but they know not to do it in front of me. And I've tried to train them to not do that in front of adults. Because when I was a kid, we did the same thing. We cuss like sailors and fight. But if like an adult came in the room, we would go. Or if somebody like elderly, like an older like black woman or like an older church missionary or something, we automatically got ourselves together just out of respect for them. So I try to teach them that still. That's my 8-way. Remember that? Like you'd have 3-way, and then you like, okay, you call so and so, you hold on, and so we would just like I remember I talked about this in the podcast too, but like I remember when Making the Band was on, it would be like 9 or 10 of us on the phone in high school. Like I would call, I think I called this girl Nia. I would call this girl Nia. Nia would call Travis on three-way. Travis would call, God, this is so long ago. I think he would call this girl Mercedes. Mercedes probably would call this girl Courtney. Courtney would probably call, I don't know. They just know it was like 8 or 9 of us on the phone. And then we'd be just watching Making the Band on the phone. And then, of course, there's one random kid who somehow hung up. And so now you done lost 4 people and you can't figure out how to get everybody back on. So everybody got to hang up and we got to start over. And then when you get to that kid who hung up, their parent answered the phone. Actually, no, Devon can't come to the phone right now because he ain't washed the dishes. So he'll call y'all back. And then we're like, well, dang, well, how are we going to get Thomas on? Because we needed Devon to call. So, man, good times. And that's all before social media. Like, that's before Facebook. Well, Facebook was out, but you had to have a college email. So MySpace was a thing, but we weren't really on it like that. And smartphones weren't a thing. So in order to do MySpace, you had to sit in front of a computer. And some of us still had dial-up. And some of us, a lot of families, that computer was right in the living room for everybody to see. So you wasn't going to be on there looking at too much out of pocket. So, yeah, good times. Okay, where are we at? I feel like I had a really great little set of teenage years. I'm that last generation before social media really became a thing. I always tell the teenagers I work with, like, try to live and enjoy life a bit more. Still do your social media, take your pictures, do your IG, do your TikTok, do all of that, but really try to just enjoy the moment, because once it's gone, like, those teenage years go by so fast. I feel like I was 16 like 2 years ago. I'm far from it now. I'm like, dang, that time went by fast. And even like some of the kids I work with in the past that are now like 25, because I was 23 when I started. So those ones that would have been 16, 17, 18 when I came in, like, they're all like 23, 24, 25 now. I'm like, dang, Mr. Michael, it went by so fast. I was like, I told y'all, what y'all thought this was. Y'all was making fun of me, calling me old because I was 24, but 23. Huh, how you like me now? Man, somebody said, can you share more of your journey of becoming a program director or branch director? So I talked about it in the very first episode of my podcast, but long story short, I always volunteered at community centers when I was in college anyway. I got out of undergrad, was unemployed because it was the peak of the recession. I went back home anyway because my dad was sick. And then I was trying to find a job. I couldn't find anything to save my life. It was nothing. Because again, I was from Spanaway, Washington. Spanaway is not really a booming town with a booming economy. So if you're not military, if you're not Microsoft, if you're not Boeing or Amazon, your other options in a place like Spanaway would be the mom and pop places or maybe Walmart or Kmart. And even those places weren't hiring because I had to compete with the 60-year-olds who lost their jobs during the recession. And so me being, 21, 22, I had to compete with the older demographic. And so I was always overlooked, could not find a job to save my life. So then I was like, well, let me utilize my talents. That's kind of when the YouTube channel started as well. I think I did my first video in like 2010 or 2011. And then, anyway, one of these, my initial plan was find a super great career and move back to DC. And I went through that process, lots of no's, lots of ignored, whatever. Because again, I was coming out of college. I didn't have a lot of work experience, minus, some internships and some stuff I did on campus. But everybody knows, like, corporations don't care about what you do in college. They just want the degree. All of the organizations or whatever you're part of don't really matter to them. They don't see that as real work. So, fast forward, I decided, well, what, I did work in, a bunch of community centers. Why don't I see if there's, a lane for that? So I just started looking at places where there was a need. I randomly applied at 4 a.m. I don't even know why I was up that late because it wasn't that I woke up early. I had just stayed up. I applied. Literally, I got a response within the hour. I was like, dang. So whoever responded on their HR team responded at like 7 a.m. on the East Coast. And then, hey, I got to do a Skype interview. The interview went okay. They said, come to DC so we can do an in-person interview. I flew on my birthday, August 1st, 2011. On my birthday, got on that flight. My parents helped pay for my ticket because I didn't even have the money to get there. It was like my birthday gift. Got on the flight, did the interview. I felt like I bombed the interview because it felt like an interrogation, if anything. One of the guys was like, how do I know? How do I know you're not just doing this because you just want to get to DC and then leave in like a year? And so I had to somehow explain, like, no. And I was like, if you look at my resume, every piece of work I've ever done is something communal. So I used to volunteer. There was a Kingman Boys and Girls Club in DC. It's in Northwest. It's in Ward. Is that Ward 4? It's around. It's not too far from U Street. So I used to volunteer there. This lady, Tiffany Ward, who's now actually, she's an elected official in Maryland. So good for you, Tiffany. Um, she had brought me on as a volunteer at that time when I was an undergrad at Howard. So I did that for like 2 or 3 years, got to meet a lot of really great kids and stuff like that. Um, I was teaching dance and working with all these different competition teams. So I had did that. When I was at Howard, there was this organization called Target Hope, and we were like a community-based organization. And so we used to do a lot of volunteer work at Bruce Monroe Elementary. The old building is gone now. I think they've rebuilt it into something else. But that used to be right over there on Georgia Avenue, right by the place that used to be a Cluck You Chicken. Now it's a nail salon. But I used to do a whole bunch of volunteer stuff there. And yeah, so I had to pretty much sell myself like, no, like these are all the things I'm passionate about. Everything I'm passionate about is like based around community. And so I thought I bombed. I'm like, damn, I done spent my last little bit of money on my birthday and I failed. I'm not even about to get this job. And yeah, I was on my little walk. It had to be like 102 degrees outside. I was sweating through my little outfit. I was so hot. And then I got a call and they're like, hey, actually, you got the job. They liked you. I'm like, really? Y'all okay. And so then the rest goes on and so on and so forth. I'll be a little bit more transparent when I get to podcast episodes because it's a long journey, but it wasn't easy when I got in there. It was very hard because there was no resources. There was no money. I didn't have a large team. I didn't have a large center. The kids, there was like a disconnect because that center had been open since 2007 as far as the company that ran it, but they had gone through like 7 or 8 directors. And 6 of those directors were all in a 2-year span. So the kids weren't feeling any new faces. So when I came there, the kids was like, look, are you going to be here or not? Because if not, you can bounce. So, okay. But anyway, so it got better over time. I'll talk about it in the podcast. Dina, what are we congratulating you for? I want to say congratulations too. Let me scroll up. Dina, what did you do? She's saying everybody, I want to congratulate her too. Tell me what Dina did. Somebody will catch it up. Oh, but all right, Dina, congratulations on whatever it is. Ain't nobody telling me in the comment section yet. But Whitney, you crazy. One of my friends is on. Okay, true story. So senior year, so my degree was in communication and culture. That was the program I was in. And so, oh, good job, Dina. Congrats. What college? Good for you. Come on, graduation. But it was so funny. Me and my friend, it was my friend Whitney. This is like the end of my senior year. I'm stressed out because I don't know what I'm doing in life. And that's all in my first podcast episode. I didn't know what was next. I thought I was gonna go to New York and do A&R and music, but I was just dropping the ball. Stuff wasn't right, stuff wasn't aligned. And so I was telling Whitney, like, dang, man, I don't even know what I'm about to do. And so Whitney was in the school of business. So she's, studying all the business stuff. So she's trying to be all shady. And so she was like, why don't you just get a job in communication and culture? It's like, you raggedy, you shady MFer. It was so funny though. It was such a good joke. University of West Georgia, mass communications minor in film studies. Good for you. You want to direct my next music video? You do cinematography? I'm looking for a director right now. Good for you, Dina. That's good. Like a lot of people on this channel, like I remember Alan graduated some years back from University of Washington. It's kind of dope. What I love about this channel is that like all of us indirectly kind of to an extent know of each other or what everybody does. I love when we all share everything. So that's dope. Good for you. Man, I remember I was happy when I graduated, but I was really sad because I didn't want to leave Howard because I had so much fun. I was such a punk at the graduation. I was teary-eyed. That Denzel Washington glory tear was coming down, that commencement. Let me read a few more comments, then I want to shift over. I did want to talk a little bit about that Bronx fire because I didn't get a chance to talk about it on and in the news. Jay said, I remember watching TV while on the phone. I feel like that was what a lot of people do. I think kids still do that today. But back then, we used to really used to be on that phone for hours. If you weren't on the phone, I guess our social media would have been AOL Instant Messenger or Yahoo Instant Messenger. Used to do that. Good times. So those were fun. It's kind of cool because I'm still in contact with some folks from high school. There's some folks I don't really keep up with as much. And then you kind of grow apart from some folks. But there's some good folks I'm still really tight with, which is pretty cool. Those are good times. Let me see here. Deborah Frederick said, I was in DC from 1973 to 1976. None of what you're talking about now is there but Howard. And listen, you know what's crazy? None of what was at in DC in '06 when I was there is like half of that stuff is gone too. Like, man, because when I got to DC, it was already going through the change, and it just kind of got accelerated, especially when Fenty got in there and sold and closed off all the middle schools and made it all real estate. Man, it's just layers and layers. Yeah, DC. There's not YouTube. There's a Twitter page. I don't know what it's called, but it's called like Vintage DC or something. I love looking at that page because it shows like all the old DC angles. There was a shot they had of New York Ave and Florida Ave over on this side of Northeast. And the only thing that's recognizable is literally the bridge. That is it. Like everything. I was like, man, it's crazy how so much changes over time. All right. FF80 now says, anyone else been having strange dreams lately? I haven't had a whole bunch of terrible. I have never been one to have nightmares until the last few months. I don't know where they're coming from, but they be messing up my sleep. I literally had a dream where I died. I have never had one of those. I always have the dream where you wake up before anything happens or whatever. But like, yeah, it was some random dream where there was like for some reason there was a big giant tsunami that was coming, and I knew I couldn't avoid it, so I just turned around and let it hit me, and then I woke up. I was like, "What the heck? I ain't never had nothing like that." And that had me a little shook. I woke up praying. All right, Black Jesus. I don't know what that was about, but undo it. Man. All right. Somebody said, what are your thoughts about Ice Cube and his policy for change? He got a lot of pushback. I think the reason he got a lot of pushback at that time was because a lot of people felt like, why did you wait until a handful of months before the election to finally go in and say something? I do think I commend him for wanting to challenge the status quo, but my beef with a lot of celebrities that do this is they always wait until right before the election. You have to there has to be enough time to build the messaging. There has to be enough time for people to really go and do the research. And I think what he needed to do was partner with coalitions that were already doing the work. I think he meant well. I think I love that he was transparent with everything, and he was very honest about who wanted to meet with him and who didn't. Thank you for letting us know where certain folks stand. But I think again, people are going to be critical when you show up kind of last minute because people are like, well, where were you at for the other year? It happens all the time. So it's kind of like you have to think like when you finally decide to come out there, like come out there earlier. And then even then, you shouldn't disappear after the election. We should still be hearing from you and we should still see what's happening, what's going. And there was a lot of kind of disconnects even with the collectives and what people thought is worthy and what wasn't. And some people had some criticisms towards some of the ideas he had, but I'll give him credit for at least coming with something. It's better than being an I told you so person. At least there was something that was presented, even if it wasn't everything that people were really excited to see. And then I think a lot of people just felt like they felt he had a little bit too much of a connection with the Trump side. And people were just saying, like, if after you've seen everything that's happened, if Trump already didn't do anything for Black people collectively for 4 years, why do you think just because he aligned with a celebrity, it's going to all of a sudden change? Because he had a lot of Black celebrities aligning with him in the beginning, right? You had Steve Harvey go, and we saw Kanye and the HBCU presidents. And I want to address this too. When we talk about the idea of information, one of the things that took place, there was the idea of, okay, Joe and Kamala are cutting $15 billion from HBCUs. 15 billion has never been allotted to HBCUs to begin with. It was proposed in one of the plans. I want to say the Build Back Better plan. When that 3.5 trillion dollar bill, it was proposed in that portion. And so over a span of a certain amount of years, $15 billion, either it was 15 or 30, was supposed to be allotted to HBCUs. That was the idea. Then when we got into that idea of reaching across the aisle and folks were saying, I'm not voting for this, I'm not voting for that. Republicans aren't going to do that. They're not going to do that. It got down and got cut down to 2 trillion, which is still more than what was already being allotted. Folks were trying to say Trump was giving to HBCUs. No, actually stuff got stripped. What did he give? $80 million. That was it. So even after all the HBCU presidents met in there and took that photo op, they got nothing. Nothing. Okay. So again, that idea of the 15 billion, that was proposed. That was the idea of what they wanted to do. But again, this stupid game of politics and Republicans and Democrats and unity and all that BS, it didn't work. And so as they kept cutting, they had to keep finding bits and pieces to cut to try to get the 3.5 trillion down to, at one point, they wanted it down to 900 billion. So like, that's what that was about. So I think sometimes, and even with that, when that was pushed out there were all these publications that said, yeah, this many billions were cut from HBCUs. I was like, no, it wasn't. What are y'all talking about? No, it's not. Yeah, like we can criticize, but we need to also make sure that we're getting the right information and we're not just reacting to react. And so that got on my nerves. Oh, that got on my nerves. Anyway, um, oh, somebody said, "Am I watching the Janet Jackson documentary?" Of course. Oh, I can't wait. I want to see all the people that are about to get dragged, and it's over 2 days. It's going to be good. I'll definitely probably talk about it after it finally wraps, but that's going to be fun to watch. I don't even want to be bothered that day. My phone will be off. I ain't talking to nobody. Nobody better call. Mm-mm. Phone will be on do not disturb. All right, leave me alone for them 2 hours. Actually, four altogether. SF said, a dream about a tsunami may mean you're suppressing your emotions about something and feeling overwhelmed about it. It could be. It's been a rough few months. um, Maurice said, research your dream. It could mean something different or significant. I do that. Like, yo, anytime I have a dream that's interesting, I like go and Google. I even like, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but like I even I'll wake up right away and then do a voice note and talk about what I dreamed about and then come back to it later. I don't know what this is about to say. Let me make sure I ain't saying nothing crazy. What is this one? Let's see, what's this one? Is it playing? I don't know what this is about. I can't hear it. Look, and I'm half asleep on here talking. You can't hear a word I'm saying. Water was all nice and clear, and blue and teal. So yeah, that's me randomly telling myself what the dream was about, and then I come back to it. But you know what's crazy? When I was 18, I went 1 month where every night I wrote down what I dreamed about while I was asleep, and then today I still remember about 10 or 11 of those dreams when I go back and look at the notes. It's really interesting because, most of your dreams you forget about. Don't you hate like when you were trying to think about a dream you just had literally 5 minutes before you woke up and you can't remember any of it? Like, man, that's the most irritating thing. Or if you're having like a good dream, you got to get up and go pee or something. And then you try to get back to the dream when you go to sleep. You're trying like, all right, activate, take me back. I was just about to win the lottery. Oh, Black Woman Marie said, why you sounding like Barry White? Listen, that's the only time my voice is deep is when I first wake up. Maybe that's when I should start recording my album. Like when I get up, I might have some lower range in there. Start singing a little deeper. Man. Don Worthy said policy has always been debt neutral when they're not Republican. Exactly. The homeless advocate said Trump is one of those white people that say our company is not racist. Our CEO is a minority. I hate when they do that. You can be white and married to someone black and still be racist towards black people. The thing, it goes back to what I was saying about black faces and high spaces. That idea of tokenism, representation is not just about getting somebody who looks the part, but representation also means that they represent a culture and a collective in which they come from, and they're going to use those experiences to help, implement policy and change within that company, so that the company can move into a direction that's more inclusive of all of these different groups. And that never happens. They always just it's kind of like the idea of blacks for Trump. Put some black folks in a t-shirt, make them stand back there. The funniest bit I saw Trump was doing a rally. He was talking about, I guess, the COVID vaccines, or no, not the vaccines. It was healthcare in regards to COVID patients. And he was saying, well, now it looks like, they're choosing minorities first. And so now white people have to get to the back of the bus. And then the black people with the Trump t-shirt, yeah. But they were like saying, yeah, to the idea of this is stupid. We don't support it because, maybe I was like, what kind of nonsense? He's like, yeah, we need to do whatever. And so I'm just like, y'all, okay. All right. Y'all got it. School me. It's y'all world. I'm just living in it. Let's see, where am I at here? All right, I think there were a few more topics I did want to cover. I'm gonna kind of skim through them because I'm not that pressed. I did read Adele just canceled her Vegas residency again, the whole COVID thing. I do think for entertainers, it kind of sucks right now to tour because you just don't know the environment or how things work. But apparently a lot of her crew and team just kept getting sick and people kept being out. And I guess that was supposed to start tomorrow, but they had to, it's just done. It's probably postponed. When am I getting glasses, sir? They're right here. I just don't like wearing them. But these are the ones that are for the blue screen. But yeah, and actually I didn't wipe these, so these are foggy. I gotta clean those out. But anyway, yeah, so I guess that does kind of sucks for her. Because it's hard. It sucks when you work really, really hard on a show and then you don't get to do it. That always sucks. And I know them fans are pissed because there's people that travel from all around the world to go and see Adele. I know they were hot. I remember one time Brandy was supposed to be at the Kennedy Center. And it was going to be one of those shows where she's like with the National Symphony Orchestra. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so good. Because, they at the Kennedy Center, they were doing a bunch of National Symphony Orchestra shows that were collaborations with a bunch of different, artists. So like Common, I think, did a really good one there at one point. I think Nas did one. Babyface has done one. Maxwell's done one. Diana Ross has done one. And so Brandy, I was like, this is going to be so lit. I can't wait. And literally the day of, I had a suit and everything. Like I was going in there clean. It was like, oh, it's canceled. I'm like, cancel? You need, really? Are y'all sure? Are you sure? Because Brandy's already in DC, so she can't get there at all. Like I was so mad. I was hot. I think I was madder at that than when Janet had postponed Unbreakable tour because she got pregnant. Because that was a stressful day. Stress, man. And that was funny. Some people were saying they wanted more videos like the one I did in regards to that whole Michael Jackson and Beyonce conversation. It was a cool conversation to have, but I also didn't like it because one of the things I know is I'm a very long-winded individual, and especially talking music, I'm very detailed and those videos are long. And so people tend to not actually watch the whole thing. And I think the beef I think in order for that video to make sense, you had to sit through the whole thing. A lot of people watched the first 10 minutes and then were ready for World War III. And so I was like, y'all are such a headache. Sometimes just shut up and listen, And so, yeah, that was a fun little topic, but yeah, folks, I think sometimes when you start talking fan bases, it becomes so territorial and just, I'm like, y'all, and the purpose was to just not get into a space where we always have to tear down somebody to build somebody else up. And so in that video, there's nothing bad said about either artist. I just talked about the careers from that standpoint, talked about the, specifically it was centered around the conversation of Coachella and whatchamacallit. And so I don't know why everybody wanted to make this a conversation of career versus career. I'm like, we're not there. This is just, but anyway, somebody said, what are you reading these days? Okay, so the book that I actually just got, I said I was going to take somewhat of a break from so many politically motivated books. I said, let me read a little bit more Black literature just to loosen up some. So the book that I just bought, it's by Lamar Giles called Not So Pure and Simple. This is what the cover looks like. It's more of like a young adult book. I think I'm almost too old to read it, but thank you, Tango55. He said, I hardly get a chance to catch your lives, but thank you for the entertainment over the years. I just think you're so smart and your YouTube archive is amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, and it's narrated by Corey Jackson. So that's the one that I just bought. What else? I have this book by Brene Brown called Daring Greatly. I haven't started it yet. And there's another one I have. Oh, it's not on Audible. It's the actual book. Hold on. Let me go grab it. I'll be right back. All right. I think I showed it last time. Yeah. Two of them. All right. So, one is Blues for Mr. Charlie, James Baldwin. This is actually a throwback book, but I bought that one a while back. I think I referenced it last time. And then Mulebone, Zora Neale Hurston is the other one. So those are kind of the ones that are there. And that's why, so with the book club, the selections are something different. Because for the first book, I wanted us to kind of tackle something where there can really be a really great discussion about like solutions or how the content affects us. And that's why I chose those four. But the next selection after we get through that first book will be probably some literature, just to kind of mix things up a bit. We don't got to be mad all the time. We should be mad, but we should also balance it out because we don't need to all die at 59 from hypertension and anxiety and stress and heart disease because the world is so terrible and we just consume and saturate in all of the terrible things that take place. All right. Did I have anything else on here I was really wanted to cover? Somebody was asking who's the next So It Happened. It got down to the wire between Sierra, Tony Braxton, and Michael Jackson. I didn't want to do Michael Jackson because I think there's enough Michael Jackson channels that do a great job. There's a channel called The Detail that's really interesting. They always have some really great little pieces that are very detailed. I think they do a better job of talking about the transition from history to Invincible than I would. And then there was a conversation. So then it was down to Tony or Sierra. And I think Tony is often left out of many music conversations. So she's the next episode. So that will be the conversation of the heat going into more than a woman. Um, and then after that, I want to do another male entertainer because I want to keep it a little balanced. And then after that, maybe Sierra. Um, we'll see. Dang, now I'm losing my voice. Hmm. But yeah, that Tony one will be very interesting. A really great conversation about her at one point having the adult contemporary audience. And when I say that, I'm talking about like the crowd that listens to Celine Dion. At one point, she had them on lock, and then there's some deeper conversation, but we'll get to that later. I don't plan on having that episode out for a little bit. I'm letting the Janet one make her rounds, and some of y'all are just now discovering the Usher one, so I'm gonna let those ride out because again, those take a lot of time to put together. But I am aiming to hopefully have the next episode out at some point in the spring. Plus, I'm behind on some other stuff on this channel I need to get done that I keep saying I'm gonna do and it never comes out, or I change my mind and I don't like what I did and I say I'm gonna go back and redo it. So I got to get some of that stuff done. I got to kind of revive my podcast and I got to finish some other things. Alex Scarlett, how do I get involved? As far as the book club, once we make the selection, because I'm going to vote on the 4 that, or I'm going to look at the votes that you guys have for the 4 that were chosen. I'll announce the actual book and then I'll post the Zoom link. And the first Zoom will be on February 7th. All right. We're going to wrap soon. I have not even eaten dinner yet. That's probably why I'm over here fumbling my words. Let's read some comments. Okay, I'm gonna leave all these topics. Oh, I said I was gonna talk about the Bronx. Not bad. So the Bronx fire. I'm glad I just randomly remembered. So if you saw, there was this really bad fire in the Bronx, right? I want to say killed 19 individuals. And the cause of the fire was space heaters. And then as people dug deeper, it turned out like the heat just wasn't on. And so people were using space heaters to kind of do what they needed to do. But then when you do the research and you discover that the building had a similar fire 35 years ago for that exact same reason, it goes into the conversation of just recognizing that a lot of these like landlords and a lot of these units that exist are usually not up to code. And usually when it comes to Black tenants, Black migrant tenants, brown populations from the Central America or the Caribbean, you tend to see almost a disregard for livelihood, where it's just be happy, you even got a place to stay. Now shut up and make it work. And so what makes it suck is the tenants have been complaining for an extended period of time saying, hey, there's no heat. We need heat. And the landlord didn't move on it. And so we get to the space where you have this fire. And again, this is a building that doesn't have fire escapes. And you have all these people who are trapped. And a lot of people died from, smoke inhalation. On top of the fact that the doors that were supposed to like automatically close were not working. And so they're open. And everybody knows like any event of an actual fire, if you're in a fire, especially in a house or an apartment or something, and you escape the room that the fire is in, you close the door so that the smoke doesn't escape out and suffocate everybody else. So, and sometimes in addition to that, it kind of keeps the fire a little bit more contained. It makes it spread slower, minus what's happening with the ceiling and the roof. And so I just think, again, especially with it being in the Bronx, it just makes me think of, remember the burning Bronx when you had all the landlords setting their properties on fire for the insurance in the late 70s and even going into the 80s? Like you just see, I don't know. A lot of these units do that. Even my old apartment. If you remember my old YouTube videos, remember I used to sit with all the posters. Like I used to live in this apartment complex called Beacon Hill back in the day. And Beacon Hill got on my nerves because it was one of those places where you couldn't control the heat. They turned it on and turned it off for you. Like, I mean, you had the thermostat, but the building did not turn on the heat or the air until a certain time of the year. And they would never turn on the heat until like the 3rd week of November. And DC gets cold. And I remember I went to the rental office like, man, it's so cold in my unit. And then the apartment is what you call a patchwork apartment. It was one of those old buildings. They just redo the inside, but not even do it that well. So you still have the old windows that don't even have weather strips. And I don't know, it was a patchwork apartment. You touch the wall and the paint come off. And so I remember going to the rental office like, ma'am, it is cold up in here. It's freezing. Like, what do we do? And the lady was like, well, and I was like, she better not say what my grandma used to do. She was like, you can turn on your oven and, turn your oven to probably broil or, 460 or 500 and just leave it open. And that should kind of warm you up a little bit. And you can boil water on the stove. I was like, yo, I'm paying entirely too much for this to be my reality. Yo, what? That's one of the reasons why I kind of shifted over this way. But, I mean, in this real life, I used to do that all the time. That's no secret. People do that. When there's no heat, you turn the oven on, and it gives you some heat for a few minutes, and then you close the oven back and let the heat rebuild. Then you open the oven again, and the heat comes back out. And I would boil water in all the big pots at the same time, just because the steam would kind of do a little something. And then on the flip side, then comes summer. DC has hot summers. They don't turn the air on till almost July. And DC is hot by May. We in there sweating and man, I mean, at least I had a few trees, almost, but all my windows were on the same side. So even if you opened them, there was no breeze coming in because you need that cross breeze. Because I remember even back at Howard, when I was at Drew Hall, they got air conditioning now, but there was no air conditioning at Drew Hall when I was there. And so I remember I lived across the hall from this dude, Marcus and Emmett. And then me and my roommate, Sean, we would open our window and then Marcus and Emmett would open theirs and the wind would blow across. And so we could get a breeze. And then other folks in the hall would do the same thing. And so the hallway was a wind tunnel. That was our way of getting the air to kind of kick in. Because our freshman year, it was a heat wave. I remember it was 106 degrees one of those days. I was like, that is chaotic, crazy. But and it's not even good to use the oven to freaking make heat. But at least I don't know. The oven I had was gas, but I was just like, man, that was a time. What a time. But man. Anyway, let's see where we at. Jay said, OMG, yes. When I complain, I'm often told to be grateful for what I have to remind that things could be worse. I hate that argument. Identifying and fixing the problems is the only path to progress. And I think that's just what's so sad about those families is like there's almost a disregard for their lives. That shouldn't have happened. And then again, you get some ties. There's some ties to that mayor they done elected up there, which again, he should have never won to begin with. Y'all, there were definitely some better candidates for New York, but symbolism kicks in and does its thing. All right. What up, Tony Johnson? Oh, I saw that, Nathan Moore. Cardi B is covering the funeral costs for the victims. Look, every now and then some celebrities come in and do some good work. So good for Cardi. I commend her for that. Like that's very selfless. Good for her. Any thoughts about Todrick Hall? I don't follow him on anything. I saw he's supposed to be on what Celebrity Big Brother. I was just looking. I might actually watch that. That might be some good trash TV. It's when I saw the lineup, it is I don't even know half these people, but it's New York from Flavor of Love. It's Chakari Richardson, the track star, Todrick Hall, Nene Leakes. I don't know who these white folks are. Let me scroll. I don't know who none of these people are. Lamar Odom, Neo. I really don't know who the white people are. Hold on, I gotta pull up the list. I don't know who these people are by picture. Hold on. Celebrity Big Brother 22. Okay, who are these folks? All right. The white folks, because I got some of these names wrong. Oh, that was Hillary Swank. Oh, okay. Who else? Kevin Jonas. Okay, so that's one of the Jonas brothers. I don't know them by face. I know the Jonas brothers. I don't know them like that. Richard Hatch, Brandy Glanville. Oh, I know who that is. She was on Celebrity Apprentice at one point. She's a housewife, ain't she? One of them housewives. Brandy Glanville. Some other folks. But anyway, that might be entertaining to watch. I might actually have to sit through that. I guarantee you now, though, there ain't gonna be no cookout with that cast. That's a very unique group of castmates. All right. Let's keep it scrolling. That should be, somebody said the Bronx is burning. I think that should definitely be a subject to kind of go back and revisit that. There's some really good hip hop documentaries that talk about just what was happening in the Bronx at that time. But yeah, you had so many landlords just, committing fraud and just burning their stuff down and get the insurance. And then none of the stuff was being rebuilt. And for years, you had sections of town that just decimated buildings. Like, man. All right. Alan said a lot of these apartment buildings are run by shady, racist, greedy property managers and owners. Yeah, they always trying to cut costs, and then they want to keep raising the rent. I am ready to own. Okay, I'm getting there. I've been looking at condos lately. All right, y'all in here fighting? Let me see what we fighting about. We gonna fight on this. Folks gonna find something to fight about. Let's see. Somebody's mad about something, and I want to see what it's about. Haley Lynn said, when did African Americans start calling themselves Black Americans? When you saw the Black nationalist movement and the Black Power movement. It was an idea to, because remember, it was already black first. African American came afterwards. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of reasons why you see people like to use the idea of Black Americans is it kind of brings the conversation of distinction, because a lot of people within the diaspora don't see themselves technically, they don't want to call themselves Black American because they line up with the country in which they're from. So, and what I mean by that is like they understand the idea of Black as a race, but as the ethnicity that exists within the United States with the Black American collective, as far as those who have roots in this country after the transatlantic slave trade, like there's kind of that distinction where you kind of see that difference. Other people want to recognize it and be called by what it is in which they come from. So yeah, I'm Jamaican. I'm from Trinidad. I'm from Grenada. I'm from Anguilla. I'm from Togo. I'm from Cameroon. I'm Nigerian. I'm Ghanaian. I'm from Benin. I'm from Burkina Faso. So yeah, people like have their own distinction. So I think for like Black Americans, we always just say Black, and we've always said Black. For me, it's always been Black. African American kind of was like almost that passive term that was kind of thrown out there when white people were afraid to say Black at that point. But I mean, I'm fine saying either or, but I just say Black. Black it is. Black, 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 Black. All right. Yeah, Black women read. It was an 80s term, African American. Came around the 80s, and it's still a term that's there. Oh, that's a good one, Black women read. What about Aquafina getting an NAACP nomination? Somebody else got one too that didn't need one. Who was the other person that got one? I was like, y'all doing a lot. And it's interesting that she would get nominated. I just fried her up in one of these videos. I don't remember which one. But remember, she's the Asian actress that pretty much her claim to fame was pretty much doing, oh, it was my last in the news where I talked about the black sense. Yeah, she's one of those kind of people. She's done the whole trope on like black, her vision of what she sees as Black Americans. And so that whole kind of hood aesthetic, she built a whole career on that and got a whole lot of smoke. But then at the same time was talking about she'd never do Asian accents because it's detrimental to her community. And now she's getting nominated for the NAACP Image Award. I said, y'all playing games over there, NAACP. What y'all doing? I know they said colored people, but when last time I checked, I thought it was colored people, like the term colored from when we were still called colored back then. I understand it's inclusive to everybody, but dang, if you're going to put some other people in there, don't put the people that are doing something that's detrimental to the Black collective. What y'all doing? Who's the other person? Somebody else got nominated that's not supposed to, that we were like, what the heck? I don't even remember. Damn, I don't remember. And somebody else got nominated that doesn't need to be. They just giving folks awards to stay, give awards, whatever. J Balvin, thank you. That's the one. The same one who already said don't call him Afro Latino and had the music video where he's walking Black women like dogs. And y'all can nominate him for an award. Who's working? Who's working in the offices over there? Somebody give me their number so I can call them. Hold on, let me look their number up, bro, because I'm gonna call them tomorrow. He said I'm gonna find who I don't even know who's in charge. We're gonna find that out. Because I got some questions. Dang, you know they got 800 different chapters too. I don't even know who to call. We're gonna figure it out. Playing games. The nonsense. All right. Mm-mm-mm. Victory begins in the garden said, to Black people, I'm Black, but to other people, I'm African American. Okay. Yeah, everybody has like, there's different experiences that people have with the different terms. So yeah, that's some people's experience. Um, I'm over here squinting these eyes. What are the standards? I don't know what the standards are, but they tried it with that one. Oh, y'all just put anybody in there. J Balvin nominated for Black Music Award. And my beef with that is there's already a lot of Black artists that already don't get enough exposure. So you would think that maybe some of those lesser known R&B acts that don't always get the same push and pull, but are still coming out with great projects like a Leela James or somebody, that would be the outlet that they get. But no, y'all want to give it to J Balvin or whatever. Like, man, some nonsense. Mm. They will not be getting a Christmas card. They will not. All right, we're going to wrap up soon. The homeless advocate says, unfortunately, Yep, in San Francisco, California, they do the same. It's sad how they do the housing basement units that are not up to code, and that's dangerous. Because I'm sorry, San Francisco already sits, on them fault lines. Y'all, the last thing y'all need is an earthquake. Because man, some of them units, some of those places, God bless. Mm. Tanisha or Renisha Brooks said, "Yeah, my grandmother uses the oven for heat. My grandma always had heat in the house, but one time we had to use the oven. I forgot what because her heating wasn't working, and she had like the throwback heating unit because her house was built in the 1920s. And this is Savannah, Georgia. This is what street? I ain't telling y'all that street. I'm telling y'all too much of my business. But yeah, I forgot what happened. But she had this unit where okay, so the heating unit went from the top of the ceiling all the way down to the floor. And then it was on one side of the wall. And then when you go into the other room, the other side, the other one will be on the other side. And then it used a real flame. Like there was a pilot light in it and it used a real flame and you turn the heat on and go. And then it was only in that one room. It was in one side was the living room. The other side was a hallway leading to her kitchen. And that was the only heating place for the whole house. But it worked because it would go all the way to her bedroom and the other room and the bathroom. But the den, which actually was the garage at one point, she turned it into a den. She had this kind of gas heater. We talked about it on one of the lives before, but it was one of these heaters that it hooked to the gas. You turned on the little gas and you put a match and it went poof, and then it would heat the den. But yeah, one of those times the central, well, that's not even central heating I think she had, but whatever it was, it went out. So we were using that oven, and she had one of them old ovens that has some crankage heat. So we was hot for a minute, and I felt like we was one step from melting the linoleum in the kitchen floor. But it is what it is. All right. Dina Newton said, "I love Celebrity Big Brother. I'm definitely going to watch." I liked watching all the UK ones. I watched a little bit of the US one where it was like, what was it, Candy and Tamar and Meta World Peace on there. I watched a few of those ones. Those were pretty fun. Yeah, I like Celebrity Apprentice. Or not Celebrity Apprentice, Celebrity Big Brother. But I did like Celebrity Apprentice too. Like honestly, Trump would have been all right with me if he would have just stuck with that show because that was some good TV, some good TV, some good trash TV. But no, he wanted to be president. Let me just run for president. And took a whole good show off the air because you want to be crazy and say a bunch of terrible things. Man, whatever. It was a good season. That season with Latoya Jackson and Nene going at it. Oh man, good time. And Dionne Warwick, yeah, Dion was giving them hell on that show. I remember the episode when they had to do I think it was like a burger joint, and they put Dion on the register. But you know how sometimes people are not as technology driven or they're not as tech savvy, and so she's working that little register. Dook, dook, dook. And like Star Jones, like, yo, Dion, we got to move a little faster because they're in competition with like another team with the male celebrities. Like Dion, we got to move a little faster. Dion, well, there's no need for all that. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done. You don't have to get excited. It's gonna be all right. Duke, Duke. I was screaming when that was so funny because Dion was like, "Y'all ain't about to rush me. Y'all should." And she would not leave the register either. She gonna do the register. It was so funny. That was a good one. That was a good season. Um, Man, Trump, you should have just stuck with the stupid show. Whatever. All right, what else is going on here? Marie said it was a Hispanic dude. I guess that's about the J Balvin. Okay, I think that's about him. Yeah, now don't get me wrong, NAACP is inclusive of all groups, but my beef is if you're gonna put somebody in there, don't nominate people that are doing things that work against progress for any collective. That's my beef right there. Like what y'all doing? They're just doing anything. Okay. That's like remember that UK act, the girl that she left the group, what was it, Little Mix? I forgot her name, Jessie something. She has that song Bad Boy that she got a bunch of smoke for because they pretty much people felt like she was almost in blackface and she got a song with Nicki Minaj. That's like nominating her for an NAACP award. Like, please. Somebody said that's what happens when you don't vote. When was the last time you went to a meeting? I don't know the context of what that's in response to. So I can't respond to that. But if it's towards me and it's towards like voting and stuff, I always go to all the like the town halls and stuff. I've always been very politically inclined with not even just DC, but even where I work, which as far as where my center is. So I've always been pretty in the know about everything. That's the one thing I've always learned and understood the importance of politics. I think that's because I spent those adolescent years living in Europe and then seeing all of the uprisings and what happened with Kosovo and Yugoslavia. For some reason, it made me very intrigued about what was happening around the world. And so when I got back to America, I was just always really into politics. And then even like I remember following the 2000 election, and I was only in seventh grade, but I was following that thing seriously. So it's what it is. All right, we are almost done here, folks. I need to eat my dinner. What did you think of valuing the Prince estate? I haven't really followed that story. I wouldn't even know what to tell you. I knew they were going and trying to, I guess, evaluate how much everything is worth. I guess it's challenging because there's not a lot of family to leave anything to, but I don't know. I have to follow that. I'm not really that locked in. Um, all right. Says Maria actually said, "Portrait of a Lady." You're not missing much. He does a lot of pop features, like with Cardi. Yeah, I don't really listen to his music, so I wouldn't really know his songs. I just saw the smoke that came with that video. I was like, what happened? Um, Carl Michael said, "Great channel. If I'm not in jail tomorrow, I'll be back." Okay, we'll be here. I have not seen Peacemaker. Um, the new shows I've watched. We talked about Abbott Elementary. I like that one. I like the American Auto Show. I think that's the show that comes on right before or after, or maybe it's on NBC actually. I really like that show. That's a pretty funny one. It's different, so I like the humor that they have on that one. I did start watching Euphoria. I'm trying to like Grand Crew. I've only seen the first two episodes or first three episodes. So I'm trying to support that one. What else am I watching? I mean, I still watch This Is Us. That's my show. I'd be giving that show smoke, but that's my show. So I still watch This Is Us. Um, at some point, I'm going to catch up on all the Power book episodes because I stopped once the regular Power was done. I didn't watch the other ones, but I do want to at some point get into those ones. Um, those are really the only things I'm watching. Um, yeah. What else do I got going? Um, Jalil Mason said he kicked T-Boz off. Oh, on Celebrity Apprentice. But see, T-Boz volunteered to go. Trump said, look, don't volunteer to go. You're going to go. And I was like, damn, T-Boz, you just had to say something. But T-Boz was over. She said she ain't like the show. She was ready to go home. So I ain't mad at her. I would have left too. The adventurous daydreamer said Miss Warwick is a whole mood. Dionne Warwick is hilarious. They need to bring her back because that whole season she was on there, everybody was catching it. Everybody was getting it. When they were doing, what was it, when the kids had to do the play or they had to do the puppet show for the kids, and then there was that deaf woman on there and they wanted the deaf woman to be the main character, and Dion was like, nah, because the kids gonna feel sorry for her. I was like, dang, Dion. Man, that was a good one. And then she yelled at that other lady. I forgot who she was yelling at. I got your number, hussy. That was some good trash TV. Every now and then I like a little balance. Um, Weezy Jefferson said, "Are you moving on up?" I'm trying to. If in order to really move up, I gotta give me a job to pay more. I'll tell you that. Let's see. Would you be a history teacher or involved in politics? I have no desire to really be a teacher. Just they get rid of me real quick. Because if I'm the history teacher, Even if they have all these rules of what you can't talk about, once I get on my soapbox and start rambling, I know I'm gonna say something that's not allowed. They're gonna get rid of me. That's why I like where I'm at, because I can kind of say what I want most of the time. Um, and so, yeah, I just never wanted to be a teacher, but I have at some point had a desire to be a college professor and teach on like the college level, but that would require me to go and get a doctorate. And I don't know where that fits in with my life at the moment. So that's kind of on the back burner. But I think this channel to an extent kind of fills that void as well. And so I don't know if that's still going to be something I push to do later in down the line. Now, being as far as like a college professor, I wanted to do that as like my very last career. Like that was something I wanted to do after like the age of 50 and do that for like 20 years and then finally retire. But I don't know, it's always changing. And then politics, I'm just not interested in being in politics at all. It's such a cutthroat industry. It's everybody gets bought out. People mean well, and by the time they get far further along or get into those spaces where they can really make some change, they're so bought out that they can't even do anything, and they end up being sorry. Who knows? Though, maybe my mind will change at some point, and I'll run for like city council or a school board. But I think if I ever went into politics, that's probably where it would stay. Maybe it's like city council. Really, I think I'd push for the school board. I think that would be if I ever did politics, I'd want to be on a school board, and that's probably where it would stop. I'm just not. I don't want to do politics. I think I can do more teaching as far as like just sharing insight and enlightening. And then um, I don't know. I like what I already do as far as community work. I like being very hands on. I've always said there's so many approaches to fixing some of the problems. And I think sometimes when you really focus locally and focus on small things, you can make some really great impacts. And so, within the community that I work in, it's a small community, but there's so much that we've been able to do in 10 years, like so much where it's kind of cool. I got kids now that are like at George Mason University getting a doctorate. Like I don't even got a damn master's and they getting a doctorate. I'm like, good for you. So it's kind of like, you know, you just see that impact more upfront. You see the outcomes, and so I like working on a smaller realm. I don't think the idea of running to. I just think it's hard to do politics, especially like when people want to run for president. You realize you're going to be president of 330 million people, there, and most of them are not going to like you. To be honest, it's hard to get people on board with things. And the politics, I'd go to jail because I fight half the people in Congress. Like I'm not gonna lie. There's some days some of these politicians, I'm like, I don't know why y'all don't just take some of these people out back. And I guess I can't say that on here, but like some of these folks, I'm like, just square up. Let's just fight right now, right now. Just let's just fight. Because I know Joe. I know Joe. After all of the meetings with Manchin, and then in December, Manchin was like, I'm still not voting for the Build Back Better. I know Joe was like, I know Joe wanted to fight him back then. Like, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead and fight him like you did whatever you said to Corn Pop. Anyway. Oh, I have seen the new Wonder Years, Salamatu More. I saw a few episodes. That one's okay. Um, the Harder They Fall, I still never finished it. I think I talked about it the last time. I'm only an hour in, and there's all these things that I started watching and never finished that I gotta get to at some point. Um, yeah. Thank you for correcting that title. I'm gonna fix that as soon as I get off this video. Thank you. Who said that? Cat BX. Appreciate you. It's 1B, not 2. Okay, see, it's a one. See, I'm thinking of that Texas governor. I think his has 2. Well, I don't know what I did. I'll look at it later. But okay. Um, somebody said, "Is This Is Us sad?" It's a lot. It's not sad. I mean, there's some sad pieces in it. I think I like that show because it's just so warm. It kind of there's the problems that exist, but I don't even. I think when I first watched it, it wasn't even on purpose. I think either I got my wisdom teeth removed from the left side. I still got them on the right side, but the left side is removed. And that was shortly after my bout with pneumonia and a partially collapsed lung. So I was at home off for a few days. And then at the same time, I think it was the inauguration for Trump. And so I needed a good distraction. And so I found This Is Us and started binging. I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is good. And yeah, so that got me into the show. I think it's a very creative show as far as the idea of telling a story through multiple generations in one. I think that's kind of cool. Welcome, Tracy Marie. All right, we're almost done, y'all. This has been cool. I think I have one more video for you guys before the week is over. God willing. I know I got the podcast out tomorrow, but think I was gonna try to squeeze in one more because look, y'all are fighting me over the Mike Todd video. Y'all like, that's it. I'm like, dang, I'm gonna do a live. Some days I don't have the energy to do a whole hour all the time. Then I gotta still edit it and put the graphics and the pictures and everything else. That's be taking all day, man. But I understand. I understand. Y'all be wanting like more content, but I work a lot, so it kind of cuts into some of my creative time on top of my additional endeavors I'm working on. All right, I'm gonna do a few more. And see, now I'm about to be eating dinner at like midnight. My stomach's gonna hate me when I wake up. So Nigel said we need to fix the schools in Baltimore. I hope they got that AC issue fixed at this point and the heat, because I remember them kids in the classrooms with the jackets over there too. So much going on. It's so sad. And the thing that makes me so mad is there's money to fix a lot of this stuff, but the money is just being allocated into things that we don't need to spend it on. That's why when they started talking about Ukraine, I'm like, we are not about to spend billions over there when there's enough problems here. Ukraine and Russia gonna have to just use their words and figure it out. Like, man. And then my brother's is still in the military. I keep telling him get out of that mess, because if they try to draft and send you over there, just know I'm kidnapping you and you gonna be hiding out in my closet or something. Because no, absolutely not. All right. Oh, I did spell it correctly. Okay, thank you. Kira said Randall is everyone's fave. It was kind of funny how you know how the ones that the kid actors that play the characters, you know how they got older, so they had to start swapping the kids out. I'm like, Randall done been 8 different complexions of brown. Because remember the first little Randall was like he was very like he was much lighter complexion compared to the adult Randall. Like how did that happen? So now the new Randall, he has a darker complexion. I was like, that's interesting. Um, that's funny. Yeah, that Mike Todd. I personally didn't put his actual clip in it because it was grossing me out just talking about it. That was nonsense right there. Absolutely out of pocket. What up, Albert Old School? Like Albert Old School is my road dog because he be sending so many articles for me to go look at. I got so much homework in here from all these different documentaries and releases and articles and investigative journal. He be having some content to be sending me. I'm like, I got a whole folder because I can't ever get through it all. Yeah, there's some people I gotta still respond to with emails too. Um, all right. Yeah, I just wanted to end on a more positive note because we were definitely doing some politics going in earlier. Um, Alan said, "What is this channel about?" I think my about me section just says, "On occasion we shake the table," a conversation of like politics, music, life, entertainment, all of that. Thank you, Marlon. Can you do a Soul Train and its impact on Black culture? I guess as far as the video, well, I feel like BT has a whole series that kind of already does that. We can talk about Soul Train though. Um, hmm. And what's interesting with Soul Train, if I think about it, is how many people branched out from Soul Train that ended up like doing a lot in the industry. So I think of you guys might not remember this group, but there was a group called High Energy. It was a girl group. They came out in the late 70s. They had a song, He's a Pretender. And like, I swear everybody and their mom has covered this song. Jennifer Holliday has a version of the song. LaToya Jackson has a cover of the song. But anyway, by the way, I think the best version of that song is the version they did on Motown 25. I wish that would have been the studio version. But anyway, one of the members of the group was a Soul Train dancer. And it's kind of funny because when you watch the Motown 25 performance, it's the bars in High Energy. And so she has on the green dress. I can't remember her name, but she's killing them steps. I mean, you just knew she was a naturally gifted dancer. And that performance is interesting because one of the members in the group had like a nervous breakdown right before they went on stage. And so they had a friend who's the lady in the purple dress in that performance who ends up having to step in and fill in and learn the choreography last minute. And she kept it up. She kept it up, but Lady in the Green was killing it. But I think she actually died. So, you know, rest in peace to her. But yeah, and then you look at like Shalimar, like Jodie Watley and Jeffrey and all them that came out of there. And there's who else? There's been a couple people on Soul Train that's either going into music or going into bigger opportunities. So there's a whole bunch. So yeah, Soul Train kind of has its own story just in relation to the dancers. And then of course, when we talk about the Black entertainers that went on there, that definitely was a great outlet. And that's where a lot of entertainers also did what you call record hops. I said this in the Michael Jackson Beyonce video where I said there were a lot of televised performances in the 50s and 60s and early 70s where the artists would go and lip sync. And It wasn't lip syncing because they couldn't sing, but they would use it as what you call a record hop, which is kind of like the promotional footage of that song. So the idea at the time was just getting the song heard so that it could be more popular and people would request it on radio and go and buy the singles and go and buy the albums. And so, that Soul Train was a great outlet for record hops. That's why so many performances are not live. You have some that would use a full band and do live performances, but a lot of people lip sync because, again, that's the era of record hops. So when you look at the old American Bandstand episodes or Ed Sullivan performances, sometimes they weren't live. They just, it was the record playing and the artist would sing to just kind of give a visual. And those visuals would sometimes be, they would sometimes be showcased on certain networks and certain channels. And there were some shows that showcased, like as you got closer to the 80s music videos, it wasn't on MTV. I cannot remember the name of any of these shows that saved my life. Hold on, let me see. Shows that played music videos before MTV. Because I know there was at least 3 or 4 different shows that specialized in playing music videos at the time. And so if they weren't playing music videos, sometimes they play like the record hops as well. Dang, I have to find it later. Oh, no, here we go. What was called... No, continue on that, man. They always trying to send you some stupid ad. Night Tracks. That was on TBS. And that was on local stations. There was a show called Friday Night Videos. There was Splits in Berlin, Adam and the Ants. I don't know any of those shows, but apparently they played music videos. No. Those are acts. That's not TV shows. Those are actual acts. Never mind. Yeah, there was a few different platforms where music videos were played before MTV. They need Solid Gold. Okay. Midnight Special is another one. It wasn't music videos, but they did the live performances. But Midnight Special, a lot of their stuff was actually live. The Emotions have some really good performances on that special as well. Somebody said, do you remember Midnight Love on BET back in the day? Yes. They used to come on after Comic View. Or after BET Nightly News. Yeah, it was Comic View, BET Nightly News, then Midnight Love. Oh, no. Yeah, that's right. That's what I remember. Yep. Comic View was on at 10. BET News with Jackie Reed was 11. Midnight Love was on. Okay, yep. Good times. What? Somebody said it's sad when you have to beat women. We ain't beating no women around here. What did I miss? I got to scroll up and see what the context of that is. Oh, okay. It's a book. Read the story about Don Cornelius. Oh, okay. I got you. I thought that was about me. I'm like, I ain't hitting nobody. not at all. If I ever were caught beating on a woman, first of all, there's too many women in my family. The way they probably jump me for doing some nonsense like that, we don't put our hands on women around these parts. All right. Yep, Jodie Watley was a dancer, and then she joined Shalimar. Oh yeah, the passing of him too, man. Wasn't that terrible? And I didn't even realize he had done so many productions as well. Yeah, he has an extensive catalog. So many greats we've been losing. Oh yeah, somebody said Rosie Perez was the dancer on there. New York Undercover used to play the music videos. I remember that. Or not music videos, but the artists would perform on the show. And sometimes they would do covers too. Vivica Fox was on Soul Train at one point. That's right, Renisha Brooks. Oh, that must have been about the DeBarges as far as the hit women piece. The homeless advocate. Yeah, it's so sad how drugs destroyed the DeBarges. But see, they dealt with a lot. Like if you go back and look at them childhoods, I don't want to get all deep and terrible, but the fact that there was so much like incest and molestation and stuff going on, like so much happened with them as kids. Even like amongst the siblings doing things to the other siblings. I was like, geez. Speaking of the DeBarges, Bunny DeBarge does not get credit for how good she looks. I was like, Bunny was fine back in the day. I just want y'all to know that. Just want to put that out there. Deb Moore says, I still love Milli Vanilli and the Real Singers. They had good music. It's sad the one guy killed himself. What was that, Rob that died? And I know the original band, like the Real Singers still came out with music afterwards. But see, okay, is anybody from Baltimore on here? Girl, it's true. My parents, I wish I could. God, man, all of my vinyls are at my mom's house. I have a vinyl of Girl You Know It's True, and it is not from Milli Vanilli, and it predates Milli Vanilli. And when I did the research, I can't remember the name of the act, but they're from the Baltimore area. And something happened, some other stuff happened, and somehow Milli Vanilli got the song. Somebody from B-more school me on that, because I know I'm gonna look it up. Because it was an act out of Baltimore, and they initially had "Girl You Know It's True." Okay, Kirk is from Baltimore, Nigel. All right, so y'all go ahead and school me. Who is it? No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. The original. I'm gonna figure this out. Hold on. I'm gonna find this, and hold on. Let me go to YouTube. Actually, no. If I play it, then they're gonna demonetize me. Hold on. The original "Girl You Know It's True." All right. Boom. New Marks is the name of the group. It's called what? They were from Baltimore, right? Hold on. I want to just make sure. Yeah, it was a Maryland-based group that called New Marks, and they had the song called. Go to YouTube and listen to it. Thank you, New Marks. Go to YouTube and listen to it. All right, because they had. Hold on, I want to find. Man, they don't even got to. Okay, that's gonna be another project for later. It'll come into one of my R&B bits. Yeah, but so yeah, it was originally a Be More song. There's a bunch of songs that regionally they were already hit before they crossed over. That's kind of like I swear, remember Whoop There It Is. There was definitely a group based out of I want to say Atlanta that already had Whoop There It Is before that one blew up. And then there's some other ones. And I remember when I grew up, there was a female rapper, MC Lucia. She had this song called Boom, I Got Your Boyfriend. But there was another act way before that had a Boom, I Got Your Girlfriend. Like, this is man, I'm gonna save all this conversation for a Zoom party. I need some music heads that can really that are of that era we can really school it up. So, all right, that's gonna be a time. Man, that just took me back. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, y'all, it wasn't their song first, exactly. And then the creator of Milli Vanilli, that white manager guy, because he had another group that was really popular in Germany. It was like two or three black women that were singers and the one guy that danced. So the background singers actually sang. The lead singer did not sing. I think he died too recently. He just danced. You might have seen there was a clip that went viral. They had a song called like Daddy Cool, but they sold a lot of records in Europe, like a whole lot. Nobody really knew of them in the United States, but they had some really big. I'm gonna find them too really quick. Hold on. Boney M, that's the name of the group, or Bonnie M, right? And so it was four at one point, three or four different black women that were the background singers, and then the lead singer was this guy named. I'm looking for the piece with the members. What's the guy's name? He's gone now, but Bobby Farrell. Okay, so Bobby Farrell is the guy. So when you see the performances, they're singing and he's doing all this weird dance and kind of he was in his own world. But yeah, he didn't do any of the singing. He just kind of lip synced to actually the producer's voice. The producer guy, his name, Frank Farian. That's the same guy that started Milli Vanilli. So initially, a lot of those songs were his vocals. Now, mind you, the vocals on the song, the guy's not singing. He's kind of just talking in this very deep tone on this song, kind of. And so, yeah. So he already had a history of kind of creating groups where people were lip syncing and doing whatever. But yeah. And so a lot of joints had multiple, you know, versions that came out, but some of the stuff was like stuff got stolen, and then some was stuff didn't get cleared by labels, and then other things where people just did covers. And then when you really talk about like the 50s through the early 80s, people did lots of covers of different songs, and it was really, even with the jazz world, it was really popular for artists to do standards. So like Natalie Cole, Aretha Franklin, so many people did a lot of different standards, especially with jazz. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every time I say we're about to get off, we start talking music, and then y'all know I'm gonna start talking some more. By the way, I've done a handful of podcasts the last few weeks for a lot of different people. So if y'all want to check those out, one podcast is it's my friend Jannard. Jannard. He has a podcast supposed to be different. He has a really good one that talks about a lot of music. You can follow him on Instagram. His is Jannard Kenneth. But he has a podcast called Supposed to Be Different that really tackles a lot of conversations around music. There's another podcast I did. Friend Jason has one. His There's the JN podcast. It's like the J, like the word the, and then JAY, and then and then podcast. So he has one. I also did. I've done a few recently. I'm trying to think of all the names. It come. God, I'm so sorry for whoever I'm forgetting. There's a few. Like I've done a lot of other people's podcasts as far as like being a guest and just talking music and stuff. The ones that come to me, I'll put out at some point later and remind you guys. But yeah, the Prime Nostalgia podcast. There's an episode I did of that one, I think in 2019. There's the what's his name? I did the Only Jersey Live podcast. His is called like Black Culture: The Breakdown. I did that one. So there's a few on there. Like if y'all think I don't make enough videos and you just need to hear some Calvin something, I'm on some of those podcasts if you just want some viewpoints. My podcast, because someone to say, what platform are you on? My podcast you can find on pretty much any platform that has podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud. I upload the episodes on YouTube after they've had their initial run on the actual site. So like on the YouTube channel, I think I have all but maybe 4 of my podcasts uploaded. But yeah, you can find them on a bunch of different spots. You just look up Comedically Hard-Headed and it should pop up. All right, I'm setting this clock, and when this thing goes off, we getting off because I need to eat something light now because it's too late to eat heavy. So we will get off in 5 minutes. This has been really cool though. I have an R&B is Dead video I recorded and I changed my mind. I don't like what I said, so I'm going to go back and redo it just because stuff keeps changing and it's harder to. I don't think people realize it's hard to keep that series going because I don't technically think R&B is dead. So it's really become an R&B conversation. But yeah, we'll keep that going though. So that'll come out at some point. Hell, I still got to do the shout outs, y'all. I'm all over the place. Y'all gonna start fighting me like you said you was gonna do that last year. I know. I changed my mind. No, I was kidding. All right. Okay. It says Calvin, that vinyl could be worth some money now. I listen. I know it is because listen, my parents were both military, so they were always traveling everywhere, and so I think that's why I had such a taste in music because my parents got to live all around the world, so they got to hear so much, especially my father. And so yeah, my parents used to party all around. My dad used to party in Baltimore back in the day, and so yeah, that's where he had the vinyl. Because I remember one day, like my dad gave me all of his vinyls when I turned 12 or 13 because he was like, I know you'll appreciate it. Plus, he wasn't really listening to him anymore. I'm like, how do you just not listen to certain music anymore? How? I mean, he still played his music, but it's like I guess he moved on. But so I'm just, I'd have these days where I would just go and play stuff. And so I put on The Girl You Know It's True. And I'm like, wait a minute, this sound familiar, but this don't sound like the one I know. I'm like, these ain't the 2 dudes with the braids. What's going okay. And then, yeah, I went to do my own little research. I'm like, okay, so it was like a regional hit in the DMV. All right. Black Woman Reed said, I always thought it was odd their voices were so deep. See, what got Milli Vanilli caught up, in my opinion, like the manager eventually exposed, and people always thought, oh no, it was that MTV concert where they were performing and the record skipped, and then that's when they got exposed. No, it wasn't even that. It was they were having issues with the contract and some other things, and then the guy said, all right, well, I'm going to show y'all going to try to cross me, and then he put it out there, hey, they don't even sing their records. But I think what also got them was, on record, they sounded, I'm in love, girl. I'm in love. They sounded all smooth, and then they would go and win awards. I'd like to thank those. I'm like, wait, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. This don't sound right. And so every time they would speak, their speaking voices didn't match how they sounded on the record. Even when we're not even just talking, singing, just the speaking. Like, hold on, something don't sound right. They blame it on the rain. They're like, wait a minute. Okay. Forget my number. Doo, 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 doo. They had some little bops though. That and what was the Blame It on the Rain? They had another one. That was some ballad they had. I didn't care that much for the ballad, but those were times. Yeah, Renisha Brooks, that was crazy because Milli Vanilli could actually sing, or at least the other guy could. Rob wasn't that strong of a singer, but they could sing. And remember, they did come out with another album, but the label folded and I think went bankrupt before it actually dropped. So the album only sold 2,000 copies, but they did go on Arsenio Hall and perform. And so yeah, And mind you, they didn't want to lip sync. It was just already kind of prearranged for them to do so, and so they went with it. They didn't expect for it to blow up and win Grammys and be at the AMAs, performing after MC Hammer and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, Supersonic. Was that JJ Fad? The what channel is it? I think it's the Black Femininity TV channel has a really good series. They have this video where it's like forgotten women in hip hop, and JJ Fad is on there. I wish she would have included MC Trouble. She's the one that's always left out. That's the rapper. She had my favorite MC Trouble song was "Gotta Get a Grip." The video version. There's like two versions. There's the album version. There's the video version. But that song is dope. And then she had the other song, "Want to Make You Mine" with the Good Girls, if you remember that girl group. But she sadly had um, epilepsy and died from a seizure. But yeah, she's the one that's always left out of the conversations. Anyway, this has been really, really dope. Thank y'all for rocking with me. This was a very last minute video that was kind of announced, so I'm glad y'all came. Somebody said video music box. Is that before your time? No, I knew the box. If you're talking about the box that you dial in to request a video, we had that. But we'll see. Anyway, this was cool. I'm gonna try to get some more content and be a little bit more frequent. I know y'all hate when I go more than a week, but life is life for me right now. So bear with me. But once these few projects I'm working on kind of wrap, it will give me so much more freedom. But anyway, this has been good. Please stay sane. Just keep everything together. Don't lose it. I know the world is chaotic, but so be it. We'll be all right as long as we stay on top of things and don't tap out too early. Anyway, I'm out. Good night, and we shall catch up soon.